Welcome everyone, and again. Hello to the people who are streaming. Hello friends. Today I have Father Vissarione's Rosemary. Who saw the yesterday? You were there. Here's Father Vissarione. I approached to dip my finger in the water. Blessed by him. I did the sign of the cross. He took me. He gave me a shampoo. And afterwards he also spread upon me the rosemary he used to give the blessing, so a good sign of auspice. Father Vissarione is great. I love him with all my soul. He's an Orthodox priest, one of the real ones from the old days. A priest for whom knowledge, spirituality are serious things that he lives in with great intensity, with great love. He lives in a monastery in Greece. I believe he is alone, so he's a hermit. However, he comes to Italy because he has friends. He likes being with us. He's a friend of Marina, mine, of Red. So he's really a wonderful person yesterday. At the those of you who saw him, who were there was also him. So before starting, I invite here Giovanni Bongiovanni. I met Giovanni when he was 4 years old, I believe. It was the first time I went following repeated requests from Eugenio Siragusa to go meet the two brothers Filippo and Giorgio Bongiovanni, so I also met Giovanni, who is Giorgio's son. Giovanni, growing up, has felt in his heart the mission to bring to life a practical aspect of Christ's message, which is that of helping those in need. He's a volcano of ideas. Besides, if he slaps me, he makes me spin 4 times around myself. And so I leave him 10 minutes to explain what he does. He also has a very beautiful initiative that serves to finance other humanitarian projects that he will explain to you. It's not only an ethical initiative, but also useful to us for our health and for the planet itself. So Giovanni, please.
Here I am.
Meanwhile, I'll peek into the other room. You go ahead.
Can you hear? Yes. Very well. Thank you. So thank you all. Thank you for being here. Thanks to Pier Giorgio and his staff for always giving space to Funima International. So to me, to be able to speak every time that we have the opportunity. I come from Palermo, so I follow the Pier Giorgio's initiatives. Whenever I can, I try to travel. Then here in Milan, there's a large group of Funima international activists, so it always makes me happy to come, to assess the situation, as and organize things together. Briefly, for those who don't know us, I'll explain that Funima International is a non-profit, so it's an organization of volunteers that was born in 2005. It was born from my family, a journey I made when I was young in Argentina. My passion has always been to get to know new cultures and so also go to explore to make, well, my own idea in the territories to understand then what can be done with a network that then I usually set up of local associations, of professionals, of institutions to implement concrete projects in favor of people. Funima was born as a humanitarian organization. We have in Argentina activities, a staff, people, and we implement with the funds we collect from Italy. So with the donations that come to our bank accounts that you make every day, donating in our page, which is funimainternational.org. There in the donate now, indeed, I invite whoever wants to support our projects. In Argentina, we create water infrastructures to improve access to drinking water in favor of indigenous populations. These are the ones that I met. In the first journey, and after 20 years, we are still in that area in northern Argentina. We are close to Bolivia and Paraguay. In the Chaco forest and in the Andes, there are ethnic, indigenous communities, so who live in very difficult conditions. We intervene in places where there is no water, so we create wells, rainwater collection structures, small aqueducts, and we have a staff of people who are family companions, who every day go into the communities and help the community in a process. So we also do job training, agriculture and farming mainly. We also carry out political work in the social sphere, so we are, let's say, a point of reference for other organizations also to carry forward battles politically, locally. So this in Latin America, Argentina mainly. Then we also worked in Paraguay, also in Uruguay. Today we are also in Guatemala. Why? Because then our projects from the humanitarian field have moved towards other ideas that we had, as Giorgio was saying. I like to develop other projects, so we are working a lot on the topic of education too. Most importantly, we focus on children. So we believe in children, and in the future we address them. But clearly helping the child with the water issue, the benefit falls then on the whole family, the mothers, the young people, the adults. In the educational field, what are we doing? Since we believe in the future and we think that you can't only bring water and food, but you need to educate people to develop that culture also in those places where it's missing. In Italy, so we are also in Italy, obviously. We were born with Latin America, but in Italy, it's here that we dedicate ourselves especially to education. So in Palermo, where I live, we have educational projects in favor of children and support to families. So we do after-school activities. Let's say recreational activities to do a bit of education at 360 degrees. In the field of civic education, so we bring positive examples also to create that type of culture. But not only education, I go quickly, but you can find everything on our channels, on the website, and on social media, Instagram and Facebook. We publish every day the projects that we implement and the fundraising campaigns to support the projects that we intend to implement. So going back to Palermo, besides education, there are projects of social reintegration through work. That is, there are immigrant women, but also foreigners, young people, adults who need to work, or better, they need to start a path of reintegration into society. Think of those who come from elsewhere. Think of those who live in African countries, for example, in rural areas. So approaching our Western world in a complex city like Palermo can be very complicated. So what do? We teach a job to people. Meanwhile, educators start to accompany these people who come not only from abroad, but also guys who get out of prison, whoever comes out of a drug addiction, so needs other recovery activities. We offer them a work path. We teach them to do something, and we pay the people for the work they do. We started, for example, in Palermo with a social tailoring shop that every year produces bags for us where we put the panettone of Natal Solidal and we sell it as a gadget. From this small idea, evolved into what I'm showing you today since we're here, with a huge stand of many food products. This project has developed in the last 2 years, really, but it comes from this, let's say, initiative, from the world of education, from the world of social reintegration, from the need that people have in the cities where we are working to reintegrate into society and work. Okay, it might just be a first step sometimes, but it can also be, let's say, the cause that pulls them out from a difficult situation and maybe start working for some company. The first company was us. That is, we are giving work to these people who for us are producing objects that then we sell at our tables. Instead, all those products that you see come right from this idea. That is from there. What did we say? Let's give also support to realities, to social cooperatives, so to ethical enterprises that create things that enter the circuit in the world of eco-solidarity products, to give strength to different realities, that is not to companies. That there's nothing wrong with having a business, absolutely, but to companies that have an ethical profile, social cooperatives, social enterprises, third sector entities that employ people who come from a disadvantaged life. We buy these products, we have a special agreement with them. Some companies produce under our brand, Progetto Mediterraneo, which is that little brand you see there. I created it. Inside it has symbols that then I explain in a video that you can find in our social media. You see, created with sacred geometry. This brand, what does it do? Buys products From producers of this type, they make them for us. We sell them at the tables. In this way, we support alternative realities. Our vision is that tomorrow companies should all be ethical. What do I mean by ethical? I mean by companies that pay attention to the environment and to people. As you know, industries that produce foods, that produce them, that sell them, are not less responsible for what is the increase or inequality, and therefore the increase of poverty and inequality in the world. They are responsible just as much as the companies that produce weapons. You know that, since forever, our Western world, but today you see also other countries that have developed on our wave of colonialism with the new colonialism, like China. But we, Western countries, have always, I work in Latin America, so I've seen it with my own eyes. We have plundered these countries, taking away resources. So, in raw food materials, same situation. The coffee we sell comes from Guatemala, which is a country that is strongly conditioned by Western policies. We take it from Africa, we package it, bring it here, we have created a brand, and we are selling it to you. We support the local cooperative that produces it, and the profit stays with Funima International. So this fair trade, the set of these products go to finance realities of this type. They try, we give you, that is, I hope like this, to give you the possibility to make a different choice in your daily life. So to not go to buy in the usual markets anymore, in the usual channels, because it's there that we are continuing to feed, to nourish companies that are the cause of inequalities in the world. So this is for us, in my opinion, an opportunity to support alternative realities, to use the profit that comes, also the revenue that comes from the sale of these products for activities of support to solidarity projects in the territory. Progetto Mediterraneo is a project that is, it was born as a project of Funima International, and then it became a brand. And with what we are earning from this initiative, we want to implement other education projects, other social reintegration projects. You see, it's a chain that is totally ethical. It starts from the producer, until the use that the organization makes with the revenues from the sale of these products that always stay in a circuit of solidarity. So the proposal that we make today is this one, and in fact we have brought you some stands, a table that is overflowing with products. Many are produced in Sicily. We get to know all the brands. Almost all products are of organic origin. So there's also a focus on health awareness, that is, on how we feed ourselves. It's very important. And we try to propose this idea that is, let's change lifestyle, let's change habits, let's not buy, let's not feed the usual system anymore, giving our money to the usual brands, with the same old brands, to the same companies in the same supermarkets that are part of that system that we fight at social level, because we believe in a change. But if we continue to not change our lifestyle and to feed instead unhealthy habits, in my opinion, it's something that we cannot afford to do. Funima proposes this, that is, let's start buying at another store from social enterprises. The profit is used by an organization of volunteers that implements solidarity projects. And maybe this way we can, meanwhile, create an impact in the world and in society that is powerful. Imagine your 100 euros that you spend in the supermarket Lidl or Conad buying Mulino Bianco and Barilla, where then you see that the grain today comes from Ukraine. In the end, everyone buys products, raw materials, at low cost that are produced in countries that we exploit. So, let's change unhealthy habits. Let's implement solidarity projects. We can do it. Progetto Mediterraneo is an initiative, but there are other brands that are always part of the association. And so, no, we feed something, in my opinion, that is wonderful and positive. So I thank you today if you want to participate. Donating to the association, we always receive free donations in our bank accounts. If instead you want to leave your contacts, buy a pack of pasta, of sauce, of oil, you know it comes from this type of world and from this type of proposal that we are making. If you want to collaborate, over there we have everything you want at your disposal for you. Get some gifts for your loved ones. Follow us because we have created an e-commerce. Today we are no longer only in the stands and in the squares that you know it's very difficult to reach, but we are continuing to do anyway. Today we have opened an e-commerce where you can go, register, and do your shopping, and it arrives in 24 hours at home, in 48 hours it arrives at home, all throughout Italy. All right? I hug you all. Thank you for this space. And if you want, I am here all evening. I am available, and we can exchange a few words outside later.
Thank you. Thanks to Giovanni. The concept that I expressed yesterday during the meeting that was held in Torre del Benaco was this: we must be the change we want to see in the world. So it's a change that starts from us. Often we use the term society, humanity. But society, humanity, is not something that is external to us. We are society. Each of us forms society. Each of us is part of humanity. So when we hope for a change in society, you must make the first change. The profound meaning that Christ says when he states, "Love thy neighbor as thyself," is because you cannot emancipate another person, another human being, if you are not emancipated first. It's a thing that is also obvious in the world of education. If you are not a professor, you cannot teach others a science. So first, you get to know it and realize it, then you teach it to others. The same concept, even more so, which is much more complex, we must apply it in the field of evolutionary sciences. So when we talk about society, it's in bad shape, that society is not good. We must first of all start from the renewal of our own life, because the lifestyle of each human being produces a collective lifestyle that reverberates then at planetary level. So, if no one starts to change, and everyone expects that change, even deadly illusion, comes from politics, this change will never be, because the powerful will not change. They don't change, but their power is founded on us. We delegate to them our power, so we reclaim. Our personal power, we reclaim. A system, social and commercial, financial, that is ethical. This is how the world changes with practical things. So praying, doing Om is wonderful. It's a great moment of gathering and spiritual recharge, but afterwards it must produce real facts, because evil, you know very well that the elites do satanic rituals and ritual pedophilia, etc., but afterwards they do the actions. They don't just do these rituals. They don't just make invocations to demons. They make invocations to demons that then empower their operating in the world. So evil has taken control of the world, because good thinks that maybe just by doing the Om, or just by doing prayer, the rosary and whatnot, things change. They don't change. And this is demonstrated by our condition, because it's thousands of years that we pray and everything getting worse and worse, so it doesn't work. So if it doesn't work, we must change method. That is, integrate the spiritual part of prayer, of mantra, of meditation, whatever you want, but we must integrate it with action. So, what Giovanni does is a very clear example of social intervention that springs from an ethical, spiritual principle. So, if we want the kingdom of God on earth, and the kingdom of God on earth is a kingdom where things are done, including nutrition, founded on ethical bases. If not, the situation will never change. Then, as always, I begin by making a premise that is fundamental, that is essential to understand what I'm going to explain next. We are visited by beings coming from other worlds. They are beings of very high evolution. They come from worlds more spiritual, let's say more energetic than what our world is, so dense, at material level. And these beings visit us. Not because humanity must realize that extraterrestrials exist. This is not the purpose of their coming to our world. The purpose of their coming to our world is to give us a new vision of life. For example, politics is not formed by people who have different ideas. It is founded by people who live the same lifestyle that we live. So how can there be, from people who have our same ideas, a renewal of humanity? There cannot be. We need the homo novus, as said by Giordano Bruno. We need a new vision of life. So, one of the most precious things that these beings bring us is a new knowledge that sheds light on the most important questions of man's existence, of the human being, not only on the material physical part, but especially where we are still anchored to medieval visions, if not worse, of what the world of spirit and the world of the afterlife are. So we have, in fact, an unbridgeable fracture that determines our suffering, that springs from the fact that we are an integrated being, soul, body, and spirit. But in fact, we submit to scientific analysis only the physical part, while instead the spiritual and soul part we have relegated to religious clergy. So we have Buddhism, Judaism, Catholicism, African animism, etc., etc. But let me ask you this. How is it that despite the extreme differences of religious beliefs, including atheism, which is another religious belief, because it's not proven that God doesn't exist, but how is it that we all are born, grow, age, and die? So religious belief has in fact no influence in the real world. That is, it remains a mere opinion. If instead all, including vegetables and animals, we are born, grow, age, and die, it means that the spiritual world is governed by scientific laws exactly as the material world is. So, the spiritual world has a law that imposes on the spirit to incarnate in a body, to live a certain number of years, and then to disincarnate. It's a natural law that is imposed on all, rich and poor, white and black, yellow and red, princes and peoples. We all submit to these laws. Instead, the fact that they have inculcated in our heads that religion, spirituality is a belief, is a great rip-off, a great deception that allows the powerful to keep society in slavery, that society accepts because it lives in fear. We are governed with fear. We've seen it in these last years of pandemic. With fear, they did the worst things to us. They took away our constitutional rights. They put us under house arrest, at home with things that of scientific had nothing. Because in the moment in which they say, science says it. But who? I have never met Mrs. Science. I have met corrupt scientists and honest scientists, as I have never met Mrs. Bank. I have met honest bankers and corrupt bankers, as I have never met Mrs. Church. I have met honest churchmen, corrupt churchmen. Instead, with these slogans, they trick us. Mr. State doesn't exist. Mr. State has names and surnames. Honest politicians and corrupt politicians. Politicians who don't have conflicts of interest, and politicians instead who had big contracts with the pharmaceutical industry, such that some pseudo-scientists or pseudo-experts went on TV to act as barkers because they had to sell certain things. So, with fear, they block our rational capacity and push us to make choices that then maybe we bitterly regret. So we need a new knowledge of a true science that explains to us how it works. We work. We don't know how to think. Our thought is a continuous chaotic whirlwind of responses, inertial to stimuli that come from outside. They put fear in you, the fear of the virus, and you run immediately to get pricked without maybe even verifying what's in the syringe. Now, I got some doubts, but why? Is the serum under military secret? Why put the serum under military secret? Why hide the exchanges between von der Leyen and pharmaceutical industries? Why suppress certain scientists who until yesterday were great men of science, even Nobel Prizes like Montaigne, and then they are defined as senile? So this inability to reason leads to serious sufferings in our lives. So we must get used to understanding how we work, because we are the only appliance on the market that is sold without instruction manual. So I get home, I know how everything works at home. But here's the great paradox and irony. I don't know how I work. At scientific level, I say, what's after death? What's after death? Is there life? Is there no life? I think there is life, but does scientific proof exist? Because in the moment that I have scientific proof that life exists, automatically, it won't be easy to induce me to make choices against my will. So the people are weakened through deceit and lies. So these beings bring us a new knowledge. It's not easy to integrate this new knowledge in our own daily life, so in common choices, from grocery shopping to educating children to the relationship with the spouse, lover, whatever you want. And this inability can be, once we have access to true knowledge, can be integrated in our real life to elevate the quality of our life and maybe get rid of certain people who are not very nice. Some look like dinosaurs, others like Draghi. Well, people like that. Others are hills, others are Monty. Well, there's everything. Now it's decades that they promise us that we will be better, and it's decades that we're always worse. That is, these people are making fools of us. But the fault is ours. Now these beings come to bring us tools of power to elevate not only our spiritual condition, but especially where we really suffer, which is the material condition, because we are slaves. In the moment in which we have to pay to live, we are slaves of the bankers. We the people, don't have any control on the fluctuations of financial movements they decide. Should we trust them? But since this trust is misplaced because we're always worse, well, something must be done. But this something doesn't start from them. They won't change. It can only start from us. Here, therefore, that it is necessary to do homework. So in my website, www.piergiorgiocaria.et, then someone will have to explain to me one day why I'm called Pier Giorgio Caria. I still haven't understood it. In my site, there's a free resources section. See, you click there. Eh? You land on a page where you can download 20 books in electronic format that are a very important collection of messages given by these beings. The messages that I have studied, therefore, are verified. They're not scams. They are real messages that can integrate in our culture enormous quantities of information where we are at absolute zero or worse. We live based on processes and knowledge that are nefarious for our human health and also spiritual. These books can be requested also at this mail, info@piergiorgiocaria.it. Or for those who want it, they are also available in paper format, because maybe still many people prefer to touch and not depend on an electronic device. The knowledge that is in these texts is fundamental for a kind of work that our body does automatically. And it does it automatically, where we commit ourselves to acquiring new knowledge and new attitudes. So at the beginning, you read one of these books. Some things you will understand, many other things you won't understand. You shouldn't make the mistake of stopping at the line or at the phrase you don't understand. Go ahead, read the whole book, because at the end of reading anyway, you will have acquired something. The brain memorizes the understood information. When you will go to reread it, you will integrate other knowledge. So at the end, after 4, 5, 6 readings, which more or less is the number of readings necessary, suddenly you understand the whole book. Because in reading, the brain digests more and more the new information, builds new synapses, and does a work that from that moment on will allow you to have memorized, understood, a very important information that then you can use in your life. So, the most precious legacy is not the only one. It is this knowledge that allows us to bring to our life those improvements and those changes necessary to enter the new kingdom. The new kingdom is not something material that Christ will put on earth. New houses, new roads, new technologies, those are places of welcome, of the new man. So until on earth, there will not exist a minimum number of human beings with a new vision of life based on knowledge, scientific, real. The kingdom cannot be established, because in order for there to be a kingdom, it is necessary that there are inhabitants of the kingdom. That, theologically, in the scriptures are called the elect, but the elect are not those who have the Chiquita sticker, apart from a number that Christ indicates that are 144,000. The other elect, who must be some millions, yes, they are forming. In the period between the first, they must form in the period between the first and second coming of Christ. So the elect are not elect because there is someone who gave them the medal. The elect is he who through work and personal commitment makes himself suitable to enter in that condition. That is, it's the same thing as when we go to school. If I want the diploma, I must study. The professor examines me. If the study has given its fruits, I will get the diploma, otherwise I get failed and sent back. Entering the new kingdom is the same thing. We are given a method. We must make it our own. We must apply it. In the moment that we apply it, we are suitable to enter the new kingdom. More than a competition, a prize competition. What is the prize in the new kingdom? Immortality. Travel in the cosmos, meet extraterrestrials. This is the new kingdom. So why do they bring us their science? Because we must unite with them. How can we interact with aliens, with extraterrestrials, if we know nothing about what death is, what spirit is, how universal laws work, and so on? We wouldn't be able to communicate, so they must prepare us because at the time of the great contact, we will speak the same language. So it's a process that has been going on for 2,000 years and is coming to an end. Is everything clear? So we must study, and I repeat, study, with this very simple method of reading all the way through. We read, reread, reread, and little by little, our life, applying these new concepts, improves. You know, I used to be a railway worker. Today I find myself being a researcher, a disseminator. I worked in television. I have done a lot of things. I don't work with television anymore because it's a system that censors you. That is, I on TV could say some things, other things. It's not that there was someone who told me, not this. I already knew how the system worked. So when I wrote, I did the research and then wrote the scripts. I was censoring myself because I knew that some truths that I had discovered, some evidence, they wouldn't let me show them. And since anyway I made a living with that profession, what do? Shoot myself in the foot? However, at a certain point, the situation was quite, let's say, unsustainable, and the extraterrestrials themselves told me, look, get out of it, and do another job. That interests us more, which is what I'm doing today. That is, you speak directly with the people without filters, face to face. Therefore, doing this work at home is important. Obviously, if you manage to create groups in the areas where you live, it becomes easier. Groups are created when a person has goodwill, where they are, maybe meeting, like today, in a conference room. They come together and form what the extraterrestrials have called arc, that is, they are centers of consciousness expansion, where through personal work, integrated with other existing groups in Italy and in the world, and that carry forward this type of research and knowledge. Unity is strength. So here in Milan, for example, there is a group that is operational, that gave us a huge hand to organize the event, and that anyway in its dynamics, let's say weekly, monthly, etc., carry forward initiatives, meetings, where these things are discussed, where they also practically put their hands into activities, maybe collaborating with Giovanni's Funima, or also doing solidarity things at the local level. There is complete freedom. So this teaching that they have transmitted to us now, starting from the very early 50s until today, is contained in these, a substantial part is contained in these 20 books, which I repeat, either you download them from the website or request them at mailinfo@piergiorgiocorrea.it. Or there's the paper version and you can write to this email here. Other important instruments of study are my YouTube channel, which is super full of conferences, interviews, many things, and subscribe, so the channel expands. Then there's the site, Giorgio Bongiovanni's webpage, Stigmatized and Contactee, who receives messages from the cosmic and divine world. Very important is also the YouTube channel of Giorgio Bongiovanni. Then to stay in touch, that is, to know what are the activities, the meetings that I carry forward, there's the events section, always of my website, then there's my Instagram page, the Telegram channel where you get notifications about things I do, and you can also subscribe to a newsletter, and you find the form either on the website, scrolling to the bottom of the page, or to subscribe also by email request to segreteria@piergiorgiocorrea.it. All clear up to here. So do the homework at home. Please make sure. It's fundamental. It's fundamental because the amount of knowledge that has been transmitted in these decades is enormous. Obviously, not everything is contained in these 20 books. There is much more, but in the meantime, this is a solid base. Moreover, in a world stuffed with pseudo-masters in spiritual schools, these books give you a compass of orientation to find who is cheating you. Because of very famous people who pass for being great experts and who actually ruin you, there are really so many. Indeed, they are the majority. Very famous, very acclaimed, but in reality, they sell you fakes. That is false truths, that is lies. Seminars are another very important basin of knowledge, and they are lessons, proper courses that I have structured with a gigantic deepening on individual themes that are part of the complex of themes that I spread. Recently, we have created a page on my website where there's a proposal. It's still temporary because then there will be a proper section with all the seminars anyway. We have created this page, which is found clicking here on the home page. Available videos, they are the seminars, or scrolling the home page. So going downwards, you'll reach this section here, open the doors to knowledge, go to the collection, and there, you'll find this page. This page here. Here, these are some of the seminars. Then you click on the button, and you'll enter the page of each individual seminar. It's the only way that I have, apart from some offering to finance my activities. I don't take money from anyone because if I take money from someone, usually, whoever gives you money wants to rule in your life. Therefore, in order to be free, I must self-finance through my work. There are some seminars that are not yet present on this page. One, for example, is this: The Last War of the Antichrist, the Present, and the Future According to the Science of Spirit, where I explain the true causes of what is happening in Ukraine. This other one, The Door of Hell and the Dark Secrets of the Elite, Symbolisms and Occult Meanings and on the Diabolical Plans for World Domination, where I examine what happened in Italy with the institution of the Green Pass to be able to work behind the blackmail, which was a great satanic ritual of sacrifice of the Italian people. In this seminar, I explain everything that underlies this type of choice. Other themes. There's the series on Caso Amicizia, a series that I did only online. I've never done it in front of an audience. It's a series that I developed during the pandemic when there were lockdowns, so I did it at home practically in front of a camera. And it's 9 parts from 2 hours up to 3 hours, and it's the most profound and complete research on the Caso Amicizia. You won't find everything that's in this series, not even in the books written by the late and missed Professor Berkshire. There's an all-round analysis with lots of material that hasn't been neither explained nor disclosed. They are, I repeat, 9 parts. This is the poster of the last part of the Caso Amicizia, then the seminar on Hollow Earth, Sacred Geometry, Mysteries of History, The Immortal Prince and the Mysteries of Musine, Extraordinary Truths in the Time of Great Revelation, Ufology, obviously, etc., etc., etc. Universal Law of Cause and Effect. We call it karma. Do you know this word? Who doesn't know what this word means? Raise your hand. One person. Then, stand up, friend. What's your name? Lorenzo? Roberto. Thank you, Roberto. So karma is a Sanskrit word, that ancient language of India, that once was called Bharat. By the way, I believe that the Prime Minister wants to re-establish the ancient name, so no longer India, but Bharat. In Hinduism, it is called karma. The word karma means action. Our life, our reality is determined by the interaction between the spiritual world and the material world, such that, practically, our actions generate in the etheric, energetic fabric of the universe a reaction that returns in our life, the effect of the general cause in a specular way. That is, if you sow wind, you reap storm. This action, that we in the West call law of cause and effect, the Orientals call it karma. So karma derives from the law of cause and effect and is a necessity of rebalancing of our ethical condition so that we, in the span of numerous incarnations, can reach deity. Because since we are children of a divine being, we must return through a process of growth. We must return, fully conscious, to the divine source with the same attributes from which we started, only that we started unconscious and unable to use the potential of that power, and we will return conscious with the ability to use that power. Now, this speech said today, said here, is a fantasy, but in reality, it is a demonstrable scientific fact, because today, with new technologies and new sciences, the energetic structure of the human being can even be filmed like this. From here to there, I film you with special equipment, and I show you the pulsating luminous emission of each of you. But science hides this from us. This speech here, for us, is very important because, first of all, if the universe is regulated by a universal law, that is, it works everywhere in the same way in any world and in any dimension, it means that there is nothing that's irreversible. Where life is governed by the law of cause and effect, and the causes that determine our reality are our actions. It means that As we have created a life that we don't like and makes us suffer, we can dismantle it and rebuild it as we would like, but someone must teach us how to do it. And it is one of the themes you find in extraterrestrial communications. If everything is regulated by a law, therefore I am the cause, the first one responsible for what I am living. Therefore, love thy neighbor as thyself. For example, this law tells me that incurable disease doesn't exist. Incurable disease is a scientific obscenity, a great lie, so that we consume drugs that Big Pharma sells us. Disease in the structure of the law of cause and effect is the effect of your lifestyle. So disease, if it is manifest in my life, doesn't come from bacteria, from virus, or from another thing. It comes from a predisposition that I generate with my lifestyle. That's why, given the same behavior, one gets sick and the other doesn't, because our karma is different. So, it is not certain that I manage to heal because healing involves cellular stress. So if I am already at the level of forces, I am already exhausted. My body has no energy reserves to endure the healing crisis, the crisis generated by the lifestyle change. But we must be really badly put not to be able to make this journey. Maybe because the disease has now gone so far that it has compromised your state of health, beyond the point of recovery. But disease is always a message that the body gives us of a wrong lifestyle, be it a physical disease, be it a psychological disease, because even psychological suffering, madness, nervous breakdown, always stem from our lifestyle. One says, but it's not true. It's that I am surrounded by people who are evil and are bad. It's your fault. That is, that situation, with friends, socially, with family, you created it. With your way of doing, you attract to you that type of people. If you change, those people will move away. For example, I had friends. Before knowing Eugenio, I met Eugenio, and to these friends, they didn't care at all. Indeed, for them I had become crazy, even when I left the state railways. They almost called the ambulance. I lost all these friends. Don't get me wrong, if we see each other, we love each other, but in fact, our interaction has ceased. Those parameters that kept us united before have failed. Therefore, I transitioned from that type of friendship to another type of friendship, of frequentation. Therefore, we are always the active cause of everything that happens to us. So stop complaining. Stop being victims. We must act, and the first step of action is to change. Vision of life. Acquire new competencies in those sciences that are the most important, that pertain to the real nature of the structure of the human being and of the laws that govern his life, and above all, his transcendent and spiritual nature, because we are not the body. We are not the emotions. We are the spirit intelligence, that which reasons. The soul is the seat of emotions, and the body, the seat of desires. They are two wild horses that we must learn to tame. And with what do we tame them? We tame them with knowledge and the use of this knowledge. Therefore, law of cause and effect means passing through the plane of spiritual science, so that our relationship with God, with spirituality, and with life itself in all its areas will necessarily be founded on different values compared to what we have used for centuries. And these new values are logic that gives us knowledge of science. Therefore, science by its nature is logical. Discernment, which is the ability of correct analysis and deduction on life's facts that is given to us by science. Therefore, science gives me the possibility of discernment, because True thought, that is, independent critical thought, works in three phases. And the first phase, the acquisition of true knowledge. Therefore, I acquire data. Therefore, I meditate, analyze correct scientific data. Discernment, that is the ability of deduction, of an answer to solve the problem, under analysis will be correct, because the starting data was correct. And therefore, faith will no longer be entrusting to someone, the expert of the moment. Faith will be the certainty of the positive result that I will achieve, thanks to the logic of science. Correct data, to the correct answer that discernment gives me, and that from which springs the correct action that allows me to solve the problem. We call the human being who manages to use these three sections of correct thought, we call him wise. The wise is the one you never manage to cheat, because he has the correct answer for every problem of life. Therefore, until we become wise, there will always be someone who screws us, and it's not good. Therefore, if we want to manifest our power, we can do it whenever we want, acquiring new knowledge and practicing the logic of scientific data analysis. The discernment of the correct answer that springs from this knowledge is the trust that the action that we will use to solve the problem will have success. Therefore, no longer faith as in trusting, but more faith as trust, as certainty, that thanks to the logic of science I solve all problems of life. Because when life manifests a problem to you, the problem has data. Therefore, I come to have a problem because there are data that have caused me the problem. I go back, there's a problem. How did I get there? I go back, I understand, I adopt corrections, and I find the solution. It's a scientific fact, it's no longer a fact, a religious fact that I must ask for. The intervention of the divinity. I become protagonist, and absolutely the center of action of the success of my life. Because life, being regulated by laws, by science, once I become master of that science, I must no longer trust the politician. I must no longer trust the presumed scientist who tells me, get punctured or cut, or sew. I must no longer trust the presumed minister of God, because I have knowledge, both in the world of material things, but above all, in the world of spiritual things. I hope this speech is clear. Therefore, our malaise and our suffering, perhaps even in sentimental relationships, has always a cause specific, logical, not irrational, scientifically unraveled and solvable. Even psychological suffering, I repeat, even madness, has a logical cause that can be resolved. Obviously, if it's a very heavy karma, I cannot resolve it, because if I am completely in the impossibility of using my mind because it is completely disconnected, I will need the help of someone else. From the outside, but even the therapist, who understands this speech here, will have very powerful tools to help the one who suffers. Therefore, logic deriving from knowledge of the science of spirit, discernment, wisdom, that springs from the aforementioned knowledge that allows us to make the right choices. And faith, that is, the trust, the certainty of achieving the desired result thanks to the mathematics of universal law correctly applied to choices. The Gospel is a book that explains these laws. The Gospel is not a sacred book. Christ was not religious. Christ is the divine scientist, the Son of God who comes to explain to humanity the secrets of life. Therefore, the Gospel must be read as manual, to apply in our daily choices. Turn the other cheek, forgive 70 times 7 are all techniques that Christ puts in our hands to solve the problem of our life. The fact that Christ was not a priest is demonstrated by the fact that his death was wanted by the priests of 2,000 years ago. Why? Once they understood this, they have stopped living on our shoulders, and therefore they too, instead of ruling, living for free, because we are the ones who pay, let them also go look for a job and work, because besides not doing what they should do, they also do a lot of damage. Because unfortunately, the institution is heavily corrupted. Therefore, the main cornerstone, I repeat, of the science of spirit explained by extraterrestrials in their messages to universal law of cause, effect, from which derives our existential condition in the immaterial and spiritual worlds. Because the law of cause and effect is active both in material life and in the afterlife, and when then we return to take a body, which is a concept, as I have already explained, well known with the Oriental term of karma, but it is not, unfortunately, not even there, not even in the East. It has not been well understood, and in the end, karma too has become a religious fact, as it has been translated into religious spheres, another concept which is that of reincarnation. But if me and you are a spirit entered into a body, what does religion have to do with it? A scientific fact. I am here now. As spirit, body, and soul, I am here. Therefore, if the body is scientific, how can a belief enter into a body? Because if I were Islamic, instead of entering into my body, the spirit entered into a vase of flowers, or into a light pole. Instead, they too enter into a body, because it's a scientific law. Therefore, we must emancipate ourselves from religious beliefs, just as humanity has institutionalized them, which are only tools of government and power over peoples, and enter into the discourse of true science. That's why the power doesn't want extraterrestrials to contact humanity, because they would lose their comfortable armchairs, from which they rule, make, destroy, and believe themselves to be demigods. They are not demigods. They are criminals, terrible murderers who will pay very dearly because the law of cause and effect will strike them, and will strike them very hard. But we must be careful, because if we don't do different works, the law will consider us accomplices and will strike us too. Therefore, each of our daily choices carries a huge responsibility, always by virtue of this law of cause and effect. We don't escape. Everything we do, we can hide it, from the carabiniere, from the judge, from anyone, from husband, from wife. But the law always writes what you do. It's an automatism, and writes it in you. Extraterrestrial message, cause-effect, an inviolable law. If thistles are sown, thistles are reaped. If lilies are sown, lilies are reaped. If it's an unjust cause, unjust will be the effects. Wisdom would be in evaluating the effects, even before the cause was determined. Therefore, if I must betray someone, I must think about it, because the law will impose on me to be betrayed. I won't escape. If I desire to strike someone, it's better that I think about it. Why? Because I will be struck. One says, but I was struck first. No. You have suffered that injustice because in reality you committed it in another life, and you don't remember it. But if the law strikes you, it's because you committed that crime. For this Christ says, don't take revenge. If the thief steals from you, it's because you sought it yourself. Therefore, you must interrupt this feud with the law, because if no one renounces revenge, we always remain in the grinder of suffering. Wisdom would be in evaluating, I repeat, the effects even before the cause was determined. Therefore, evaluating before and when I'm about to commit the infraction, I already know that I will receive it. I won't escape, because to universal law is written inside us, there's no escape. Simply, where is the problem? That we don't remember past lives. But there's a very important reason why we don't remember past lives that pertains to this law. However, it's not today's topic. Maybe after you can ask me questions. Men, despite the acquisition of negative values, continue to respect the causes. to re-experience, the causes that determine mortal effects, thus interrupting a rapid evolutionary ascent of the human species and of all other components, therefore, animal, plant, and mineral, world that collaborate to the health of body and mind, to the peaceful coexistence of matter with spirit. The current time carries in its womb the obstinate perseverance towards nefarious causes with the well-known results of everyday chronicles. It is necessary to change the causes if one wants to exit from the tunnel of multiple ailments that afflict humankind. With words alone, one does not change the ironclad insurmountable law of cause and effect. If hatred is sown, hatred will be reaped. If injustice is sown, injustice will be reaped, and so on. That is, one cannot take note of the reality of these truths, but one cannot avoid the effects of not taking note of reality. But I don't believe in these things. There's no problem. There's no problem. You don't believe in karma, but karma believes in you. From all this speech, the Americans say, karma is a bitch. That is, karma is a whore. It goes with everyone, indiscriminately. These are serious things, guys. Friends, we are on the brink of a third nuclear world war, and we get there because of non-respect of these laws. Therefore, our small, or however tragic, personal sufferings, added all together, produce the frightful mess of the situation of human society, of planet Earth, wars, hunger, pollution, diseases, death, nuclear. We are devastated, and we are so bogged down in this hell, in open sky, that extraterrestrials have put a sanitary cordon around our planet, and we have been isolated because we are criminals. We kill, and it's the most terrible thing that can be said of a race. Presumed intelligent, a race that kills, we kill each other among themselves, and a race in an evolutionary condition that cannot absolutely be defined. Civil, a race where an important quota part of humanity dies of the most terrible disease that exists, which is hunger, cannot be defined civilization. That is a jumble of ferocious beasts, demented, that will go to suffer, up to even total self-destruction, if there isn't an intervention or a change. From all this speech derive a lot of fundamental things. And one of these is the divine project and prophecy. Therefore, there exists a divine project. This divine project, where is it explained? In the Scriptures? In the Scriptures there are the prophecies. Therefore, we need to enter into harmony with the divine plan, with the divine project, because God has power. And it's a real power. Therefore, God enters into this scenario of our choices, determining, by act of force, some variations, where the movement of human choices takes humanity far from the fulfillment of His project. I give you banal examples. According to God's project, it wasn't good that England defeat France. Here from the heights of heaven a messenger is sent who speaks with the young girl named Joan of Arc. This one, possessed by divine fury, changes the fortunes of war. God was not happy with the state of extreme degeneration and corruption of the Vatican. Here that He sends the saint, the poor man of Assisi, St. Francis. The faith of Catholics was dying out and was going towards materialism. Here that God sends Padre Pio from Pietrelcina. Therefore, God has made history since always. It is we who are blind from not seeing His continuous intervention in our reality to modify the nefarious effects of our bad acting, because He at all costs wants to prevent humanity's self-destruction. That is, He wants to gather the elect, wants to make the kingdom, because when He created us, in His head there was the happiness of His children. There wasn't unhappiness. Therefore, if His children set about destroying everything, He creates containments and imposes Through his choice is a change, obviously towards whoever wants to accept it, but he knows very well that by doing so, in a certain time he will obtain the effect that he had set for himself in the act of creation. We find this in the Gospel, when Jesus says, "Come ye blessed of my Father, enter into the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world." That is when God created the world. He had that. That was his project. Happiness. But since he gave us free will, he says, "I explain everything to you, then you will see." Why? Because he wants it to be a free act of love. But the free act of love, however, within a corpus of laws, that if you refuse this act of love any way, you must pay the consequences. That means that we are responsible for every choice we make. If we sow wind, we will reap storm. If we sow lilies, we will reap perfumes. Therefore, it depends on us. Therefore, in the end, it's not the divine entity that dominates us, and we are victims of an ineluctable fact. We are the real protagonists of our life within a corpus of laws. We all know that if I drive at 180 miles per hour with the camera that takes my picture, I'm going to lose my license, and I get a hefty fine. Cause and effect is the same thing. Nothing changes. You are free to do it. There isn't the carabiniere with the machine gun pointed, but if you do it, then you pay the consequences. So there is nothing different from the logic of normal daily living. What's the only difference? That maybe in the physical life I get away with it because I deceive the policeman, I bribe him, I break the camera into pieces, but to the universal law, I will never escape the effect of the causes that I have generated. Therefore, prophecy itself is not a religious belief. Prophecy is an anticipation that the divinity makes to its creature to tell us, if you do this, this will happen to you. If you do that, that other thing will happen to you. So prophecy tells us the twofold effect, positive or negative, of the causes that we put into motion. If positive causes, we will enter the kingdom. If negative, we will go to suffer. Therefore, prophecy is the explanation of the project that God has determined for humanity, based on the law of cause and effect. Therefore, prophecy does not pertain to religious beliefs, but anticipates what will happen in reality, if the causes set in motion by humanity are not changed. If the actions are not changed, prophecy invariably becomes history. But beware, in prophecy, there are always both endings. There is never just one. There is a positive ending and a negative ending. There is a positive ending, the new kingdom, eternity. There is a negative ending, condemnation, suffering. The choice is yours, says God. I do not impose it on you. Democratically, I offer you a choice. Then it's for you to decide what you want to do. Obviously, the deceiver has contrived every possible trick to prevent us from using this knowledge. Also because the theme park of vices and of the pastimes that he has put in place is very alluring. It's easy, there is no effort. So that's why, like the image before, the magic piper leads the sheep towards the abyss. Now, is all this true? Does history confirm it? Let's go see. The signs of the times. All this, friends, because I decided to also put the crop circle phenomenon under this perspective. Not that I had ever put it in a different perspective, but I wanted to explain it in an even more stronger form. Because in all this, there is clearly the unfolding of God's project. Because today, 2023, we are in the time of the fulfillment of all prophecies. We are at the end of times, and therefore, looking at history behind us, we can see that these logics are real, because what was said thousands of years ago today is daily occurrence. So prophecy has only anticipated what would happen. Let's go to a prophet of the Old Testament, Joel. And it is the section where Joel speaks of the apocalypse, that is, of the end of times, and of the imminence of the second coming of Christ. And this before Christ, thousands of years before Christ was born. Joel 2:28-32. After this, it shall come, that I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams. Your young men shall have visions. Your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your young men shall have visions. Among other things, this prophecy is reported verbatim in its entirety in Acts 2, Acts of the Apostles. La Salette, apparitions of Fatima. Your young men shall have visions. Two little boys. Lourdes 1858, a little girl. Fatima 1917, three little children. Garabandal 1961-65, four little girls. Medjugorje, five little children. Then the prophecy was true and became history. Your young men shall have visions. Why? Was it important that young people had visions? Because from the moment when Joel wrote that prophecy by divine inspiration, God already wanted to warn us that in the time in which certain things would happen that would announce the return of the Son of God, this would happen, so he tells us millennia before. But the devastating corruption of the religious institution has drowned us in a sea of empty rituals where true knowledge has been lost. That is, woe unto you blind guides! You do not enter the kingdom and prevent others from entering it, and put burdens on the shoulders of your faithful that you refuse to carry. So Christ admonishes them, to the powerful of the Vatican. He admonishes them 2,000 years ago because he, as a divine being, knew well how things would go. I have chosen among the most famous. But in all, almost all the apparitions are experienced by children. Your young men shall have visions. When he says, your old men shall dream dreams. The old man, in that context, is the wise man. Therefore, shall dream dreams, in the sense, will have dreams of foresight. The wise men will understand, from how things are going, what is about to happen. Another young man who is important that falls within the matter of crop circles is the young Giorgio Bongiovanni, 26 years old. 26 years old, 1989 begins to have apparitions of Our Lady in Mark, between Porto Sant'Elpidio and Porto San Giorgio, until the Virgin tells him, come to Fatima in the place where I appeared in 1917. It is obvious that all the Madonnas are always the same Madonna. There isn't the Madonna of this, or the Madonna of Lourdes, and the Madonna of Fatima, the Madonna of Garabandal, the Madonna that you like and please. They are all the same entity. So Giorgio Bongiovanni, another young man, young, very young, 26 years old, who at Fatima receives the Stigmata, and also receives a mission. These are Giorgio's Stigmata. The next day, September 3rd, you see two small holes on the back of on the palm of the hands the next day. That is, within a few hours then appear, definitively also, on the back. The Madonna gives him a mission that was divided into three parts. The first part was, this is the figure of the Virgin, as Giorgio saw her. Just like that. Even the face is the same. Suspended between the branches of the oak tree that is found in the great square of Fatima. First part of the mission is to divulge the third secret of Fatima, a crucial second part that Eugenio Siragusa had already developed. That is to explain that the extraterrestrial visit is a messianic phenomenon, that is, it is one of those eschatological signs that indicate that we are in the time of the second coming of Christ, because at Fatima, in 1917, the Madonna tells the three shepherds, and in that time, second half of the 20th century, cosmic beings will come from distant shores of the universe in the name of God. This phrase has been removed also from the so-called diplomatic text. Therefore, the extraterrestrial visit is messianic, because these beings are the angels of biblical times, and today we call them extraterrestrials, but in reality, they are the same beings. From the time of Jesus, those who wait for the pious women in front of the open tomb, those who appear to the shepherds to tell them, go to that hut, there is the Redeemer. It's always them, the ones who guide the group of the Magi kings, up to Bethlehem for over 5,000 kilometers. The comet star was a ship of light. It was a spaceship. It wasn't a wandering star, also because stars are suns. Can you imagine a sun traveling? Also because if it approached the Earth, it would destroy the planet. It was a ship of these beings of light. Subsequently, in the course of subsequent years, Giorgio received the stigmata, also in the other parts of the body, and these are them. To this day, they are like this: hands, feet, and rib cage. So they haven't changed. I am a direct witness. To this day, Giorgio, albeit with enormously less frequency, because in the first decade he bled, sometimes, even 3 times a day. Today, at 60 years old, the body is quite deteriorated, plus he is diabetic, and therefore bleeds every 2 or 3 weeks, and he can no longer endure the terrible pain that he lives when the wounds open up, as you see here, that bleed. It is a pain. He's afraid, thinks he's going to die. When young, he was strong, he was a bull. Now he can't take it anymore because from 89 to 2023, they are, how many years? 34 years of stigmata, they are a gigantic burden. Then, he is not a man of meditation, as Padre Pio was. He's a man of action, so he's always traveling by planes. He does anti-mafia journalism, so he has a life. From an energetic point of view, very active. Therefore, a diabetic body with stigmata is exhausted. Poor guy. Indeed, the fact that he is diabetic is scientific proof that the stigmata are a supernatural fact, because in a diabetic, wounds easily tend to gangrene, especially wounds so extensive. Let's continue with Joel's prophecy, which still concerns the time of the apocalypse. I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and the terrible day of the Lord come. Therefore, wonders in the sky and on earth in the time of humanity's suffering, of wars, up to this, which is the prophecy of atomic war. Sun is changed into darkness, moon into blood, its nuclear winter, unleashed. I held a conference in Cagliari where I explained well that nuclear war, the most dangerous part, it's not the moment of explosions, it's what happens after, which is terrible. Therefore, humanity cannot survive any type of nuclear war, not even if it were a war. At a more local level, what do I know, between India and Pakistan it would still be a catastrophe. Are there wonders in the heavens and on earth? Of course, yes. One of the wonders on earth is the so-called crop circle phenomenon. This is a crop circle that appeared in England. You see an alien face, classic gray holding a CD. You see, these are the fingers, this area here. The image was created in the style of image scanning of cathode ray tubes. The CD is a spiral that develops exactly as our real CDs and is To all effects, an ASCII code, which is the code of binary mathematics with which CDs are written. Obviously, computer experts have deciphered it, and this is the message. Beware of the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Certain mythological animals, no? Don't get pierced. You get sick, you die. In my opinion, Djokovic didn't hear it. This is why he keeps winning. There's that other one. What's his name? That great, very burrionoso scientist. I don't remember the name. He didn't hear either, I don't know. In my opinion, Djokovic has hearing problems. Beware of the bearers of false gifts and broken promises. Much pain, but there is still time. Believe there is good out there. We oppose deception. The passage is closing. That is, time is running out. The crop circle is from 2002. You see that there are wonders on earth, and what kind of message they bring. A messianic message. So, prophecy is being fulfilled. The phenomenon I give some, let's say, brief, scientific notes. This is the way extraterrestrials create the circles in the grain. It was recorded at 5 a.m. by Mr. John Webley on August 10, 1996. Do you see the spheres of light? Two passes, and in less than 10 seconds, the crop circle is perfectly formed. Therefore, it is a wonder. Because things of this kind, imagine thousands of years ago, but even today, science cannot explain them. This is the crop circle that was created. This figure, besides being a snowflake, is a monogram of Christ. I am the way, the truth, and the life, and I am the bread of life. Here, therefore, the monogram of Christ. Impressed in a circle, in a wheat field. These pictograms, or crop circles, as you call them, are created by us through a science still inconceivable to you. We possess solar magnetic synchronizers, which are spherical microbrains of psychic energy, our thought in symbiosis with their microchip, which have the possibility to materialize instantly any image and thought that we create with our mind. In reality, true extraterrestrial communication is not telepathy. Telepathy can be infiltrated by disincarnate or demonic entities. That's why certain contactees then end up badly, because they are deceived. The way, instead, in which communication is inviolable is thought image. Thought image can be transmitted through a flying object like the one you saw in the grain or in the mind of their operator, where they, from spirit to spirit, imprint in your mind the concept that they want, the concept and the image, and the emotion that they want to transmit to you, and that you must then divulge to the people. Understanding and realizing the messages of crop circles is indispensable for all those who are conscious that we aliens are visiting your world and desire to communicate with love and friendship to your consciences. Know also that we are not just aliens visiting your planet. We are above all the angels of Christ's legion. Pilate to Jesus. Art thou then a king? Christ answers, yes, I am, but my kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my angels or my servants, according to some texts, would deliver me. Therefore the action that Christ has put in place by will of his Father. What is it? That the kingdom in which Christ is king must forcefully, one way or another, also include planet Earth and Earth's humanity. On one condition, we must develop those values of knowledge, of ethics, in real life, that still in our daily life are lacking. Otherwise, we will not enter the kingdom. Christ will not choose, according to ideologies, religious, Catholic, Buddhist. Christ is interested in works, and it is written very clearly in the Gospels. What is the problem? That we don't read the Gospel and accept the false theological explanations, abstruse explanations given to us by the religious institution, that not only will not save itself because it is heavily condemned. Go read the book of Revelation, chapters 16, 17, and 18. Because the great harlot says the book of Revelation sits on 7 hills. It's not Siena, surely. These scientific flying elements that we saw in the video obviously work with energy. Here, therefore, the energy scheme of some measurements made on crop circles you see at the center of the figure. There is the highest energy. We are at 40, 50 millitesla, where the natural background, this blue is 5 millitesla. This is another figure, you see the pattern? The energy scheme corresponds to the figure impressed on the ground, and here too. You see? We have a natural background of about 14 millitesla at the center of the crop circle, 26 millitesla. That is about double. So there is a scientific evidence in the phenomenon that cannot be replicated by any forger who, with ropes, small rods, creates these figures. This energy, for example, creates, you see, a radical modification of the crystalline structure of the grain of wheat. But not only, the energy to form the circle does not break. The ears. The ears are bent plastically, you see, at ground level. You see, even the stem, which is actually a cane of corn, which is as thick as a thumb, even the stem of the corn cane, when crop circles are impressed, let's call them so, in cornfields, even the stem, nice thick woody of the corn plant, is bent even. This is a circle appeared in a field of beans. Therefore, invariably, this energy creates a plastic modification of the stem of the plant of the culture where the phenomenon is manifested. Not only, the crystalline modification is also a genetic modification. You see, these are seeds taken from the center, near the center of a crop circle. They grow about 5 times faster than seeds taken outside the crop circle. This phenomenon, that is the variation of growth speed, is also reflected the following year. That is, that energy that the summer, maybe of this year, has impressed the crop circle, remains until the following year. Ground ghosts. Here, so we have this crop circle appeared in Switzerland on June 20th, 2008. Marvelous, 5-pointed star. You see, it has the shape of the double helix of DNA, and the tip, it's a sperm. That is, it indicates that from the sun is coming a genetic programming that will help those people who are on the path of realizing the ethical values of Christ. It helps them to modify the genetics from DNA to GNA genetics. GNA genetics is a new structure of DNA that makes the person incorruptible. That is no longer able to do certain things because their genetics is so powerful at spiritual level that you have a safety. It's like having a safety catch. June 2008, in spring of the following year, you see where the figure was. The new crop doesn't grow in the same way and remains. We call it ghost of the crop circle, appeared the previous year. Let's go to this other July 23rd, 2020. Beautiful crop circle. These are the legions of Christ. Christ is at the center, and all these other stars are his angels. And look here, you see? Here we are in July. In September, the ghost of the crop circle, it is very evident, so there is a scientific significance absolutely undeniable, but nobody talks about it. Then, this energy produces a lot of things. I'll show you the last ones. crop circle that represents a molecule. You see, the circle inside was arranged as if it were a sun, the rays, and the sun at the center, where the energy that formed the circle remains impressed. You see, the snow cannot stick as it manages to stick outside the crop circle. And obviously then, already in February, there was the ghost. That is, here there is nothing, no new seed has been sown, but the grass grows earlier where there is that energy. So it is an energy that gives more vigor to the crops. There is a previous case from August of 2008 where this crop circle appears. And you see this is not snow, but a heavy night frost. The field is located on a height. You see where there is the energy that formed that circle. The frost cannot freeze. That is, even the ghost remains at the level of let's say, of ice. Then the summer after appeared, obviously, the ghost also. One thing about which, I don't know, I haven't found any. Maybe someone exists, but nobody talks about another fact. The design of crop circle figures made by these intelligences is always done invariably in sacred geometry. Crop circle of July 26, 1994. Those here, the extraterrestrials, wanted to give a sign of an important thing of which I spoke extensively in the last seminar that I held in Bologna. Look here, the crop circle is all golden modules. Everything, the distance of the small circle from the edge is within a golden module. Everything is all golden modules, and the figure is a reproduction on Earth of this form, which is the impact. That is the imprint left by the impact on the Jovian atmosphere of Jupiter of comet Shoemaker-Levy, which had split into 21 parts. And this is the imprint left by the largest fragment, called fragment G of comet Shoemaker-Levy, on July 18th of 1994. They created the crop circle because from that moment began the reignition of Jupiter. Jupiter is the ancient father of the solar system, who went to rest. Indeed, in the Bible, it is written that God, after 6 days of creation, on the seventh day rested. There are 7. The 7 days are 7 moments of creation, 7 phases of creation. Once that, Jupiter, the ancient father, had set up the material scenario. He went to rest, and the second sun was lit, the current one, which is the sun. Because every time a god, who is a being, achieves divinity, a sun lights up. Suns are the material bodies of the gods and are inhabited by celestial hierarchies. So if you want to know where the cherubim live, the seraphim and the thrones, they live on the sun. But the amazing thing that shows us that nothing in creation happens by chance, and that creation, not only human creation, is the fruit of a divine intelligence, and that even the trace of cometary impact manifests in golden section. I did a seminar of 15 episodes where I talk very extensively about these things because I demonstrate through science that God exists, not only, but that we are truly His children, because we think with the same sacred geometry with Him as He creates, with which He creates. Now, let's go to close the circle, not by chance. Why? Explanation of the law of cause-effect. Then I explained to you that prophecy derives from that law regarding the divine plan. Therefore, God intervenes in the scenario determined by our choices, according to the effect of causes, law of cause-effect, to make corrections so that His project comes to completion. Therefore, we have then seen the seers, who are the manifestation of Joel's prophecy, crop circles, which are those signs, one of the signs, that appear on earth. Obviously, Also, the stigmata are one of the divine signs that appear on earth to tell us that that source is truly meticulous, that is, he who bears these signs speaks in the name of God, does not speak for himself, because these signs are incomprehensible and inexplicable for human science. So now I go to integrate all this discussion, including Bongiovanni's life, with crop circles. July 30th, 2010, Wickham Green, Hungerford, Berkshire. So we are still in England. These two very strange crop circles appear. This is a very busy motorway, the M4 in England, and appear these two crop circles. The crop circle is a communication through symbol. How is it possible that these two crop circles do not manifest any type of symbol? There is no symbol. So, in that period, I was working on an important documentary. Therefore, when this crop circle appeared, I said, well, I said, I will think about it in the next few days. But since I was there, I took the phone. I called my friend researcher Jaime Maussan, famous Mexican researcher, and I told him, Jaime, but what do you think? Have you seen them? Yes, I've seen them. For me, they are the face of Jesus. The face of Jesus? Are you kidding? No, I'm sure. I looked and I said, bah. Let's extract the diagrams. Here they are. Let's see. What happens? That a researcher finds it was a rebus. A researcher whose name I don't remember now, he's English, finds the solution, which is this one. When I discovered this, I said, wow, that genius of Maussan got it right. But the rebus had not yet been solved. You had to turn that circle, turn it, mirror it, and put it on top of the other to obtain the shroud face, but not that of the Jesus deceased 2,000 years ago that is on the shroud cloth, but the face of a living Christ that was recreated by NASA. So it is a living Jesus who looks at humanity. So that crop circle tells us, I am here, says Christ. I am here. I am watching you. Because Jesus returned to earth in 51, physically, and travels around the world, and meets his apostles who are reincarnated, and have started to reincarnate right in those years because they must prepare his return. There is a prophecy made by the American sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce that says his will begin to incarnate in the 50s, his meaning, those who are of Christ, his apostles and disciples. So, I pick up the phone to call Giorgio Bongiovanni and tell him about this exceptional event that happened in England. Never before had the face of Christ appeared since the beginning of the phenomenon, which as a communicative phenomenon begins in 1990. Although the phenomenon began to manifest itself since the early 60s and even at the time, the circles, but only as a circle, had already been noticed. Giorgio answers the phone, but from the tone of his voice, I understand that he is about to begin the process of bleeding because he has a particular tone. So I don't want to disturb him. I tell him, look, it's okay, Giorgio. I'll call you back later. However, I continue working on the documentary. I forget. After 2 hours, he calls me. Pierre. Oh, tell me, what's up? You know that crop circle you were telling me about? I said to myself, oh gosh, I forgot I had to call him back. Yes, Joe, sorry. No, stop. I had to tell you something. He says, they came to me, the extraterrestrials, and they gave me a message about that crop circle. If you want, I'll read it to you. Gosh, I tell you this because they imprinted in his mind and then he writes them down. The message is this. The sacred face of Jesus Christ, the shroud. The Light brothers Seton Shinar and Ithakar communicate. We were the ones who created in Wickham Green, in Berkshire in England, the sacred face of Jesus Christ, the shroud. We have already explained to you in previous communications the nature of the pictograms by you, called crop circles. We want to remind you that the discourse and the message that in all these years we have launched also through the phenomenon of pictograms undergoes, by natural evolution, a transition from cosmic scientific image to mystical spiritual image. This to highlight to your consciences that this is the time that announces the coming of Christ on earth and therefore the triumph of the science of the Spirit, of which I gave you an explanation at the beginning of the meeting about science without conscience of earthly man who is destroying the planet and ourselves. At this phrase, I go, wow. You know, the researcher is always a Thomasian. No matter how many proofs he has, a new proof comes, and it's always a new opportunity to verify. This phrase indicates transition from cosmic scientific image to mystical spiritual image, that there will be a variation in the symbolism of crop circles. It will pass from an especially cosmic scientific symbolism to a messianic symbolism that is of messianic nature, of sacred nature. And so I tell myself, obviously I don't tell Giorgio, if it's true that those who make crop circles in England are the same ones who speak to Bongiovanni, so if this message is true, now in England, the next crop circle must be a circle with mystical symbolism, Christic symbolism, Christian. It cannot be a circle, what do I know, scientific like that of the imprint, of the comet's impact on Jupiter. And so I'm there anxiously, watching the websites. It appears, and it appeared after a week. Nothing more sacred, the chalice, with the host. It's a condensation of symbolisms, because there is the return of Christ. There are his legions and the contact with Earth's humanity. And it is given by the central axis. You see a large circle, a line that connects a small circle. This symbol is called union between heaven and earth. The union between heaven and earth, that is our contact. With you, earthly humanity, will happen with those who have developed Christic values. The others, we will discard them. And they give another message to Giorgio regarding this circle. Setun Shenar and the Light Brothers communicate. If you could really understand the spiritual depth of the sign that we have manifested in a wheat field in England, you would be able to realize the messianic message of which we are bearers. About this chalice, we can only tell you that on earth lives and works by will of the Most High Lord of heaven and earth, the living chalice of Christic communion that bears the bleeding signs of Jesus' crucifixion. Thus, the beings reveal another secret. The Holy Grail, sought in legends by the Templars, is not a wooden chalice or whatever from the Last Supper. The chalices, the Holy Grails, are the stigmatized, who are living containers of Christ's blood that is poured through the sacred wounds that they bear imprinted in the body. So there are two natures in the stigmatized, the common human one and the divine one. That is the one that allows these signs to remain in an inexplicable way, even in the body of a diabetic, without these wounds becoming infected. Because Giorgio doesn't put anything on them, he doesn't put disinfectant, the wounds open spontaneously. He, obviously, has an inner voice, an inner sensation of calling to bleed. So he isolates himself. And spontaneously the wounds close. There is no physical intervention, not even at a sanitary level. Therefore, it is a divine sign, imprinted in the body of a man. So the Holy Grail are the stigmatized. And Giorgio is one of the series, he's not the only one. So St. Francis, Padre Pio, Teresa Neumann, Teresa Musco, and Sister Elena Aiello. I mean, there have been many stigmatized throughout history. In this time, the Holy Grail that walks through the world, also giving the message, is this gentleman here. So, the Holy Grail are the stigmatized. So in the plethora of communications that the message symbolically gives, also gives that of the living chalices, and it is no coincidence that the stigmata in the side, when it appeared on Giorgio's chest on the left side, thus the wound of the Christic heart, you see the blood coagulated in the shape of a chalice. This happened in Uruguay on May 28th of 92. Many years ago. And this is the axis of the chalice, you see, the symbol of union between heaven and earth. Among other things, it's the symbol that appeared in the first crop circles in May of 1990 that indicated that was beginning the communication from heaven to earth through symbolism printed on fields all over the world, especially England, because England is the center of demonic command of planet Earth, the city of London. Therefore, the extraterrestrials to balance the negative energy of this island, which is the thinking mind also of the ongoing war. They balance the demonic anti-Christic energy that is in that place with the Christic energy that they input through the crop circles. Therefore, this phenomenon performs one of the various functions. Just to understand the dimensions, this is a tractor with the little man. Here, this is the proportion of the crop circle. If we go to see the perfection of the figures, of the lines, of the circles, etc. Well, to do it by hand, it's really a bit difficult. Especially in the few night hours that there are, about 5 hours in summer. And they are golden diagrams, obviously. You see, the golden axis passes at the height of the eyes. So, going to compose the figure, this is a rectangle, golden, true. It is not an image put there randomly. It's the axis, let's say of the two sections of the golden rectangle passes at the height of Christ's eyes. Obviously, the chalice itself could not be inscribed in a golden module from that year onwards. Not only that, this appeared right after, confirming that message. That is, the beings who make the crop circles are the same ones who contact Bongiovanni and who at the time contacted Eugenio Siragusa, and are also those beings with whom I miraculously have managed to establish I mean, they accepted it, obviously, a collaboration, because they have interest that this news reaches you directly, not filtered by any kind of power. So just as Giorgio is free to say whatever he likes. Think about it. The Fatima messages are 3. 2 have been spread, 1 halfway. And we are all there. Bongiovanni and Eugenio have received thousands of messages where everything is explained. They haven't hidden one even. Therefore, what is contained in the mysteries of the other messages, Medjugorje included, is all contained in the enormous collection of messages that these 2 operators of heaven, Eugenio and Giorgio, have received. Everything is explained there because these 2 figures have never gotten involved with any kind of power. Sure, they had and have their human nature, but the divine task that was commanded to them, they carry it forward. Eugenio carried it forward. Giorgio carries it forward. In a small way, me too. What I am asked to do, I try to do it at my best. And so, starting from that year, many crop circles of messianic nature have appeared. I'll show you 2 or 3 to prove that it's all true. And anyway, I've done many conferences and seminars where I explain these things and I show them. This is a sacred figure. It's called Vesica Piscis and symbolizes the first day of creation, the initial movement of the Holy Spirit that creates. The circle, in its sacred symbolism, represents the divine, God, the Holy Spirit, in short, the perfect beings. When God decides to create, he splits. And this figure, Vesica Piscis, when the splitting of the circle, the circumference of the circles, passes in the center of each circle. So, in the movement, we have 3 areas, which are Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The Trinity is contained in this figure. But the intersection of the circles, which is this one here, symbolically, also represents the female genitalia. Let's isolate this part, because in the first movement of creation, the Holy Spirit manifests as mother, as female. So creates, and in its creation, in its movement of creative power, manifests creation. And this is called mystic almond or sacred almond. Indeed, in many religious iconographies you see, we have divine beings, in this case Jesus, and Our Lady, inside the sacred almond of the figure that is obtained from the Vesica Piscis. So, let's come to the crop circles. We are at Cerne Abbas, Minterna Magna, Dorset County, 22nd May, 2017. Vesica Piscis. We have the mystic almond, and inside there is a figure that we will then understand what it is. The crop circle appears, you see, near the Cerne Abbas giant, in the county, indeed, of Dorset, and it is called Valley of Fertility. And the Cerne Abbas giant is a male figure with an erect penis because it is, let's say, the Valley of Fertility. It is a nude male figure, 55 meters tall with a club in hand, and it was obtained by removing, digging, the surface layer of soil and uncovering the white chalky layer that's underneath. It's a very, very ancient figure and it's on the side of the hill. Why make the crop circle, make it appear there nearby? Because often crop circles, to reinforce the message they carry, use orographic elements of the surrounding territory. Therefore, we said it's a Vesica Piscis, you see? And the figure that is inside is none other than the figure of the Most Holy Mother, appeared in the tilma of Guadalupe, obviously in stylized form. In the tilma, which is Juan Diego's mantle, the seer, it is a mantle of rough fiber, of agave. The average duration of rough agave fiber is 13 years. This figure is several centuries old. not only from in-depth analysis at the level of electron microscopy. The amazing thing is that the figure actually floats above the fiber. It is not impressed in the fiber, it floats above it, and has the average temperature of the human body. There's a documentary where we explained these things. The image of Guadalupe represents a young girl, mestiza. That's expecting. The symbol is the blue bow, which is an Aztec symbol, because the apparition saves the Aztec race from extinction, because the Spanish were killing about 20,000 per day, because the sacred Aztec symbols for Christians are satanic, the skulls, the serpents. Therefore, the Aztecs would not convert. And so the Spanish, obviously, hypocritically, killed them, saying they were infidels. In reality, it was to steal their gold. However, they used this excuse. When the image on the tilma appears, the image is a condensation. It's like a Rosetta Stone that allows the Spanish and the Aztecs to understand that the divinity was the same one. So, the Spanish recognize the Holy Mother. The Aztecs recognize their Holy Mother. The divine mother that they worshipped. So, from that moment on, the Aztecs begin to convert by the thousands per day. They went to be baptized. One day, I arrive at the Cathedral of Guadalupe in Mexico City, and I see a priest who was standing on a platform, let's say. He had a large container and a bucket, and he was filling the bucket and throwing buckets of water at people. I said to myself, well, has he gone crazy? I mean, is he having a mystical water fight? Afterwards, they explained to me that when the Aztecs began to convert, therefore they could no longer be killed. They were so many that the missionaries at the end of the day couldn't even lift their arms. So they gathered them, like this room as Vissarioni did yesterday, and baptized them with buckets. So this custom has remained because the Madonna God had interest in saving that race, because there had to be born the Mexican mestizo race. So if you go to Mexico, the Madonna of Guadalupe is everywhere, because they have imprinted in their genetics that they exist thanks to her. Because if she hadn't appeared, they would never have been born, and Mexico would have been a Spanish territory. Instead, the Mexican people is born, so there is the blue belt, typical color of motherhood. But there is also the mystic flower, you see, of motherhood, which is an Aztec symbol, of the solar flower, which is the most familiar, of Aztec hieroglyphs that symbolize the divinity, the center of the world, of heaven, of time and space. So it is, the divine mother expecting. In the image of the crop circle, at the height of the belly, of Our Lady's silhouette, there is a circle. The circle is the divine figure. So, it is the Holy Mother pregnant with a divine child. So, the crop circle announces to us that we are in the time of fulfillment of the apocalyptic prophecy. That is, we are close to a new birth. That is, the Holy Mother is about to present again her Son to the world. She presented him the first time 2,000 years ago, giving birth to him. She presents him now, again through her prophecies, Fatima, Garabandal, Medjugorje, etc., etc., where the Madonna, La Salette, announces the imminence of the second coming of her Son to judge the world. So it's a messianic symbol, you see? There are these rays. If we extend them, they all start from the center of her chest, since she represents the fulfillment of the prophecy of the apocalypse. Revelation 12, where it speaks of the woman clothed with the sun, and she is, let's say, clothed with the solar light of her Son Christ, which I repeat, she announces, that is about to again manifest himself to the world, the Logos solar Christ, in the figure of Jesus, that we have this concept precisely in Revelation 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun. So among the apocalyptic signs, there were the apparitions of Our Lady that John the Evangelist announces in the book of Revelation. And the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. She was pregnant because she was about to give birth, ideally to her son, and present him to the world. The labor pains are the terrible suffering in which humanity lies, and planet Earth in the time of the second coming of Christ, that is, today, where we are in a condition where we risk nuclear holocaust. The figure is slightly off-axis because it wants to reproduce, you see? That has the knee slightly forward, the Madonna's left knee. You see here? You can see it, slightly forward. So it's a Madonna in action. It's a Madonna who approaches humanity. And it was been graphically realized also in the crop circle. Also this small artistic. It's very important to emphasize that when this image appears, she is a mestiza. So she is, in fact, a young Mexican girl. There weren't yet Mexican women of that age, because the Madonna appears only 13 years after the Spanish invasion. So she announces the future. I represent the future, that is, the birth. Thanks. Because until that moment, the Aztecs didn't mix with the Spanish. At most, there were children born from rapes and violence. But still, the Aztecs didn't accept to live with the Spanish. When she appears, thanks indeed to the intermediation of this sacred figure that contains the common symbols to the two religious cultures, at that point, the Aztecs integrate with the invaders, giving rise indeed to the Mexican race. So being also a Vesica Piscis, it means always, in a different form, a new creation is near. That is the new kingdom. This concept is expressed again in another figure that appears on June 23rd of 2018, which is this one here. Very simple figure that I couldn't decipher. So at a certain point, I kind of said, guys, did you make it? Hey, tell me. No? I've been racking my brain for days and I can't figure it out. I mean, individually, I know the meaning. But what does the whole pictogram mean? I couldn't figure it out. I don't finish asking that they shoot into my mind the answer. That is, I saw this image here, and I immediately understood what the crop circle was. The crop circle is this. This is Mother Earth. This is her womb. This is the divine child, the ovum, that is still attached to the womb. Well, it is formed. It's about to be born. The five-pointed star has many meanings, but one of the meanings represents Jesus, because each ray of the star is one of his wounds, 2 for the hands and 2 for the feet, 1 for the ribcage. Then there are these 5 tufts of grass, of grain, that were left standing. You see? At the corners of the pentagon. That is formed by the rays of the star. The pentagon is the symbol of power, of strength, and so it indicates the manifestation, the imminence of the manifestation glorious and powerful, of Christ who comes to judge humanity. And the 5 points represent the 5 parts of his mission: the birth, life, death, resurrection, and the second coming. Therefore, Christ's mission expresses itself also theologically, dogmatically in these 5 points: birth, life, death, and resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ and second coming. Therefore, the meaning it's the same as of the previous crop circle, that is, the figure of chapter 12 of Revelation. You see, the tufts of grain left standing. And therefore, again, chapter 12 of Revelation among other things, isolating two other parts of the pictogram, which are this one and this one. They are two half moons. This half moon is inside, and therefore represents, it's a waning moon, represents the end of time, given to humanity to realize the Christic values. Therefore it's waning the time of humanity, and it's rising the time of the new humanity, represented by the maternal womb that is about to give birth to Christ, and therefore, by consequence, the elect. And therefore, I repeat again, the concept of the woman clothed with the Son, who is in travail from the labor, pains. Therefore, again, a pictogram with clear messianic symbolism, with clear messianic message. This crop circle, we have already seen that appeared in a previous season. It appears again even more evident on July 7th of 2018 and represents the cosmic contact with extraterrestrial civilizations and the return of Christ. It represents that passage of the Gospel where Christ reveals that angels are his legions. Let's see the diagram. The diagram is formed by 28 five-pointed stars and 29 pentagons inscribed in it, plus the large external pentagon that circumscribes the whole figure. That is this one here. Therefore, this represents, the glory and power of Christ and the cosmic contact. At the center, we have a large star. You see? That represents Christ. But angels are obviously Christic beings of various dimensions. Indeed, we have stars a bit larger and stars a bit smaller. So we have the divine triad, and it represents the cosmic contact, which is this part of Matthew's Gospel. Wheresoever the carcass is, chapter 24, which is the chapter where Apostle Matthew prophesies the second coming of Christ. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. I don't know if this passage says that he comes to blast humanity. In the broad sense, the rebellious humanity. I'm lightening things up a bit. Because here, they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. I mean, who does this? An aviation. Who is it that can gather the elect from the four corners of the world? The extraterrestrial aviation. That picks up the elect, you see, picks them up while the world is in nuclear holocaust. So angels yesterday, extraterrestrials today who are indeed integral part of Christ's power, and their work saving in the tragic moment for humanity. When will occur the gathering of the elect? Recent message, specifically the phrase, wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Often, it is written, vultures, but they are not vultures. They are eagles. And Setun Shenar wanted to specify this aspect in a message. Setun Shenar and the Light Brothers communicate, the time has come in which wheresoever the carcass is there, will the eagles be gathered together. Matthew, chapter 24. The time has come in which the elect and their spiritual children everywhere will gather in the world. On the day of the Son of God, will be identified and taken up into heaven, just as eagles do when they identify the prey from high in the mountains, to grasp it decisively on that day, just as depicted in the prophetic painting by Bruce Pennington, here attached. This here. Our spaceships will lift up to heaven, the righteous, the good, and the little ones of life, and makes a reference to the letter of St. Paul to the Thessalonians, chapter 4, verses 16-17. To them will be given the kingdom of God on earth. So the eagles are the extraterrestrial spaceship, the carcass are the bodies of the elect. Indeed, St. Paul, what does he say? Rapture of the church, letter to the Thessalonians, chapter 4, verses 15-18. Well, then I reduced it. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God will come down from heaven, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we, which are alive. So, St. Paul prophesies that in that time he will be living on earth again. Then we, which are alive and remain, shall be caught up, together with them, in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Therefore, does the Lord go on clouds of water vapor? No. These clouds are the extraterrestrial spaceships of light that will gather the elect. And in the pictogram, indeed, the extraterrestrials, the angels, are represented by these small stars, and the very large star that contains them is the star that represents Christ. And the pentagon inscribed in each represents the power with which the Lord will come. So, the stars that fall from heaven are the extraterrestrial spaceships. Therefore, another crop circle, absolutely with messianic symbolism. I come to the last crop circle. It's from this year. Here it is, June 26th, 2023. This is the diagram. Let's begin to isolate the parts. The outer circle and the inner one represent the Father and the Son, Adonai and Christ. Therefore, represent the will of God that glorifies the Son. Christ is crowned because he will manifest as King. Therefore, he can no longer be judged. They are 5 points of the crown, because the 5-pointed star, as I explained before, represents Christ. So, if I take those 5 points, you see, I unite them and obtain the star. Then we have this part here. This part here, of these circles that unite to the central circle, which are the symbolism of public contact with all humanity of earth, because they are 12. They are 12 symbols of union between heaven and earth. I specify it better like this. You see? 12 symbols. They are the 12 tribes of Israel. They are the 12 tribes of Israel, represent all the humanity of the earth, and therefore the manifestation of Christ, the manifestation of extraterrestrials, of angels to all humanity of earth, and the great contact between them and us. In the circle there is also a second crown, which is this one here, of the divine crown of the Holy Mother, who, clothed with the Christic Son of her Son, announces the imminence of his coming. Therefore, that crop circle, with Christ's face that appeared in 2010, with that message received by Giorgio Bongiovanni, really told the truth, because from that year onwards, messianic crop circles have always appeared. Therefore, those prophesied signs by Prophet Joel are on earth and announce, together with the apparitions of the Holy Mother and obviously, together with the tragedies of human events, also prophesied in the Gospel, in chapter 24 of Matthew, are all in the phase of full fulfillment. That is, we are there. Jesus is already on earth. What more should I tell you? And I finish with passages from the Scripture, where, after the explanations I have given you, it is very clear that the Lord will not judge according to religious institution membership or religious beliefs. Christ comes to judge according to our actions, not according to our religious beliefs, even if the institution tells us that if you are not part of it, you will not be saved. Great lies, big lies, because the gospel says something completely different. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "If any man will come after me, let him deny himself." That is, you must not think selfishly, anarchically about your life. You must take up your cross, which is your karma. You must pay it through the fulfillment of the teaching that Christ gives us. Following Jesus is not singing his praises, going to church. Following Jesus is practicing what he tells us in the gospel. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Turn the other cheek. Forgive 70 times 7. If they want to take away your coat, give them your cloak also. And so on and so on and so on. That is exactly how humanity lives on this planet. Because whosoever will save his life shall lose it. That is, if we stubbornly would want to carry on our selfish projects, we will fail and lose the greatest opportunity of our evolutionary history. But whosoever shall lose his life for my sake shall find it. That is, whoever abandons their selfish materialistic lifestyle and adopts, in their life the rules that Christ gives us, will find true life, stability, health, even material well-being. Because when Christ tells you, leave everything and follow me, then he also tells you that you will find 100-fold. And in finding 100-fold, he specifies also material things. He says, you will have more wives, you will have more children, you will also have more houses and more lands. Because if we achieve our material well-being in an unethical way, that is by cheating life, our neighbor, deceiving, and so on, the law of karma then takes it away from us. If instead we base our riches, even material ones, on ethics and do good with wealth, that wealth will be permanent. In fact, extraterrestrial societies have a level of well-being that is inconceivable to us. They are so rich, in quotation marks, not with money, which is nothing, waste paper. They are rich in goods. They are so wealthy that they can afford spaceships for everyone. Can you imagine spaceships for everyone? What level of well-being that society must have? So Christ wants to take us there through renouncing the pursuit of well-being in a fraudulent and criminal form, dishonest, but you obtain the same things and more if you follow the ethics that I explained to you. Indeed, Jesus says, "For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" And this is a message, a warning to the rich, to the powerful. Yes, you have conquered the world, you have made the new world order, but everything will collapse on you, because the law of cause and effect will strike you, inexorably, destroying your power. And these are not empty words. Where are the great pharaohs, the great Caesars, Alexander the Great Hellenic Empire? Where are they? Gone. Because they were fraudulent empires. They were empires, devoid of ethics, violent, and the law of cause and effect struck them and sank them. Where are the Caesars who had even self-proclaimed their divinity? Dust in the dust. So this terrible warning that history gives us, we cannot make it our own. So what the West does today, but also what the East does, will be a catastrophe for those peoples. It is not Vladimir Putin, the savior of the world, because he uses the same weapons as the Antichrist: atomic, money, corruption, violence. This feud we must stop, and it does not start from the politician towards the people. It starts from each of us in our life. Either we understand this story, or we will suffer. Until we do it, we will continue to suffer. These are not opinions. It is scientific law of life, and it is demonstrated by our suffering. We still have the fortune to be among those, and we are few, who can choose what kind of food to eat and decide when to stop eating. In fact, we are often sick from too much food. The majority of the peoples of the earth do not eat. Indeed, they thank God if they have a crust of bread and a glass of water, but we will pay dearly for it, because this well-being founded on the violence of our governments that impose through military force, through corruption, through bad politics, through the use of mafias, which are part of the government institution. This is why the Cosa Nostra of Sicily is not defeated, the pursuit of well-being that the people have. We will pay dearly for it. Either we change our life, or God will consider us accomplices, and will make us pay. Together with them, indeed. The prophecy of Fatima says, "The rich will perish together with the poor, the powerful together with the weak." Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? So what good is it to you to conquer a material good in an illegitimate way, committing crimes? Because you will lose it, you will also lose your soul. So these arrogant ones who sit in the seats of power, who mock us, who impose on us with violence, with blackmail, choices that we would not want to make, will pay dearly for it, very dearly. These people will have much to cry about, but very, very much. And this part concludes, "For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. It is written in the Gospel." And he says it continuously. Revelation 22, "Behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according to his work shall be." So what does the institution do? It deceives us, it lies to us. And we, who are ignorant, we don't read the scripture, we settle, and think we can save ourselves by performing rituals. Rituals save no one. It's not that rituals aren't important, but the ritual is the wrapped gift. Beautiful. But if there's shit inside, you can try to make me believe it's a nice gift all you want. That is the situation. The ritual is important, but it must follow action, because if not, it's making a mockery of God and yourself. The ritual does not possess in itself a miraculous aspect if it is separated from action. So it's true that when we take communion, we are remembering the Last Supper, when Christ says, "Except ye eat of the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, ye have no life in you, but his body and his blood make themselves must make themselves real life." We eat food, nourish the body, and the body then performs actions. These actions must be according to his teaching, otherwise it's useless that we perform the ritual, and afterwards we are blasphemous in daily life. We will pay dearly for it because we have known Christ and we have betrayed what he has told us to do. Then the Last Supper, I explained before, the 12 tribes of Israel represent humanity. Jesus was seated at the Last Supper in front of the apostles, 12. All right? So at that moment, theologically and mystically, all humanity is in front of God, who is Christ incarnate. And what does he do? Communion, the bread, and the wine, and gives it to everyone, a piece to each one. What is the most obvious message? Distribute equally the goods of the earth. Do we distribute the goods of the earth equally? No. Therefore, we are antichrist. So, wealth in itself is not illegitimate if it is conquered with honesty. Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, the high priest, were rich. They were billionaires, using a current term, but they were ethical people. They gave to charity. They were honest. They were not dishonest. Therefore, Christ does not condemn wealth in itself, because the rich man can, if he has commercial entrepreneurial abilities, whatever they may be, can do much good. But if the rich man is selfish, and not only accumulates wealth, but is a predator, that person will pay dearly for it. It's a wealth that is stained and soaked with blood and therefore will lose everything. Instead, extraterrestrial civilizations, they amplify their well-being, even physical, material, in a way inconceivable to us, because it is a stable wealth. Indeed, so stable that everyone has it. They are all rich. What do they lack? The sadistic pleasure of one who sees the queue at the toll booth, and he has the telepass. When we all have the telepass, there is no more of that cynical enjoyment that you see others who instead suffer. Before giving you time for questions, I had in mind to give you a whole sequence of things, but I can't. So recently, Mr. Juanito Juan has rendered, in messages received by Giorgio Bongiovanni in July, the extraterrestrials had anticipated with this phrase, soon you will be able to see our spaceships much closer and our flying spheres. On August 28th of this year, Mr. Juanito Juan found one inside his house at 4 in the morning. It has been some time that Giorgio has been saying he is asking the extraterrestrials, please, make a public demonstration, not the final contact, but give a great public demonstration to the whole world that you are here. Maybe people understand. And they respond, we don't know if it will be a positive fact. We are doing surveys. If the surveys give us a good percentage, we will do it, and anyway, we must receive the order from the divine hierarchy. However, we are doing surveys. And this episode is another survey, that is, they are evaluating humanity's reactions to the signs that they give. Therefore, the preparation of the event, then I ask that the lights be turned off. The preparation of this event of Juanito Juan lasted several months. I had prepared the whole sequence, but there's no time. Therefore, I will show you only the footage of the sphere in a future conference or seminar. Now I'll see. Perhaps in the Rome one I will show all the preparation. As I published this video, which then I sent it to Red Ronnie, but for personal knowledge, Red, taken by enthusiasm, boom, he aired it even with my phone call. But I didn't ask him to publish it. I told him, Red, look, an exceptional thing happened and I'm sending you the video that had just been sent to me from Mexico. Because with Juanito Juan, I'm already talking. Now, I will plan a trip to Mexico, I go there to see, I will interview him. Anyway, we are already talking. I'm a bit reluctant because he speaks such a mangled Spanish. It's like speaking Italian with someone from Marca. You can't understand a thing. Or someone from Palermo to say. So I published, Red published the video, I published it, I believe the day after, 2 days after. All became experts. Everyone. Ah, Korea, we didn't expect this from you. It's a Chinese LED. But it seems I worked well, everyone a scientist. Indeed, they are so good that I was fooled. I mistook a Chinese thing for an extraterrestrial thing. I say, guys, but, I mean, do you realize? Is it possible that I am the best researcher, you say it yourselves, in the world? Then I publish something and you all jump on me? At least ask me some questions. Instead, they attack with meanness. Mr. Korea, I have followed you, but after this video, you will never see me again. Who the hell ever saw you? And I respond, I will survive. Don't worry. Fellow researchers, obviously more polite in private, peer, but that's a Chinese thing, a Chinese LED. I said, well, did you do an investigation? No. Extraterrestrials have projects that develop over periods of time through facts. You cannot base yourself only on that video. Then, I say, but what prevents an extraterrestrial from going to a Chinese person, buying a LED, and putting it in a damn flying sphere to see if we are stupid? I would like to remind you, you know, I've cited him many times, the American contactee Howard Menger, God rest his soul. He received since he had moved to a wooded area, so he lived in an isolated house in the middle of the woods, and the extraterrestrials landed in the woods, went to his house in spacesuits, and they told Menger, go, buy us some terrestrial clothes and we'll change. And so he bought wagon loads of clothes, a bit here, a bit there, obviously not to raise suspicion. So the extraterrestrials changed and walked around the streets of the United States because they are just like us. And he comments, the only thing that women invariably discarded were bras. They couldn't stand them. Therefore, I said, but if the history of extraterrestrial cases brings us to this, who prevents, if they want to do a survey, from putting a Chinese LED in a flying sphere? Who prevents them? Answer, well, in effect, no one. And so, let's go analyze the facts rather than basing ourselves on the single event. Then, turn off the lights. This video, Juanito Juan didn't put it on his social media. It's a part that was removed, which shows, however, the great depth of this simple Mexican car mechanic. What do we do? No, if it's a game, let's play. Give me a button, too. So this part, Juanito didn't publish it, but he gave it to Mosan, who published it, and then I got it. And it's a part where he says important things. There are subtitles. Listen to how sensitive this gentleman is.
Vean esto, raza. Aquí adentro de mi propia casa, raza, vean esto. Vean esto, raza. ¿Qué es lo que quieres? Si eres de luz y para la luz, eres bienvenido. Pero si no, te pido que te retires y respetes.
So he didn't understand. He says, this wants to hurt me. What is it? Because anyway, he's scared, despite having experiences since childhood. So he says, if you are of the light and for the light, you are welcome. But if you are not of the light, I ask you to leave and respect me. I challenge any one of us, not even me. He understands that the object is of the light, and therefore, this happens here.
No manches, raza. Vean esto, raza. Dentro de mi casa, raza.
It's 4 in the morning.
No manches, raza.
So for the presumed experts, this is a Chinese LED.
Manches, raza. ¿Te puedo tocar? ¿Te puedo tocar?
You see, the sphere changes its pulsation, therefore consents.
¿Te puedo tocar?
You see Juanito's hand approaching and touches it. On the computer, the footage is much clearer.
Manches, raza. Te estoy tocando, raza.
The object is big, about as much as a soccer ball. Now he steps back and the video stops. Now I'll show you an elaborated version where you can better understand what is happening. So we have improved it through video editing software, where you can clearly see that the object is suspended.
Vean esto, raza. Dentro de
What's behind is the entrance door to his house.
No manches, raza.
You see how the object fluctuates? Look, now it goes up. So no object tied to a string would stay in balance like this, it would sway. Instead, the object rises, descends. And there's this part that is clearly metallic, where there's the light. Instead, the body of the sphere is more opaque.
Te puedo tocar.
This way you can see better that the sphere is suspended.
Tocar.
You see Juanito's hand. He touches it slightly so that the sphere reacts to him. But he touches it lightly with his fingertips. I'm touching it. You see, when he touches it, the sphere slows its pulsation. Then, there's a technique that is a way to make it so that the footage can be stabilized. That is, the object that moves is isolated, and the software makes everything else move. Therefore, the object remains anchored to a position relative to a visible element where you can better understand in what way it moves. Here, this is the stabilized version and enlarged. That on the computer you understand well, but on the projector screen, no. So you see here, now the door is always at the same point. Therefore, you can clearly understand the movements of the sphere. You see how the sphere fluctuates? Because the relative position with respect to the door changes. Look how it rises now. Goes down a little. Goes down again. And oscillates, you see. Now it moves right. Now it rises again, goes a bit to the left. Therefore, this movement could possibly be obtained with a rigid rod held at short distance by someone. But the movements are very fluid. Therefore, it is an autonomous movement that demonstrates that the object is absolutely in an anti-gravity condition. So truly, in my opinion, they bought a Chinese LED and put it in a flying sphere to see the reaction of the idiots. You see how the sphere oscillates? Always take as reference. Therefore, a very important fact has occurred in the history of extraterrestrial contact. It's the first time that it has been allowed. Obviously, many contactees have gone up into flying saucers, but it has never been allowed to anyone to have the two subjects, the terrestrial and the extraterrestrial object, together in a filmed document. So this marks a new stage of their approach and of the preparation for massive contact. Because if the survey will go in a positive way, they will show themselves before the great contact to give humanity a chance and avoid nuclear holocaust. They are doing it especially for this. This is Juanito Juan's account. It was 4 a.m. It's an interview, but to be short, we have translated it. It was 4 a.m. and I was in my room, which is at the back. That is, behind the corridor. I was sleeping because I was very tired. He's a car mechanic. And I heard noises outside and the dogs were barking. I opened the door, and the first thing I saw is the sphere. I took the cell phone and unlocked the screen. I stopped about 5 meters from the sphere, and I said, "If you come from the light or for the light, you are welcome. Otherwise, I ask you to retreat and be respectful." I intended to touch it, but I was dead scared. I waited for the moment. I asked permission and touched it. I put my hand under it and touched it. At that moment, the sphere turned towards my hand. Indeed, it makes a slight movement towards the right. I looked at it, and it didn't seem that the sphere, he means to say, was on the defensive. So he calmed down because he feared that if he touched it, it would attack. So he calms down and says, "The appearance is metallic. Where there's the light, it seems metal, but the rest seems flesh." It seemed like a living organism. When I touched it, it felt like velvet. I could feel a magnetism. I moved my hand and the sphere contracted until it seemed to have veins, so there was a kind of pulsation. I went a bit backward and took the camera that Jaime Maussan gave him. Jaime Maussan. I tried to take some pictures, but the moment I was about to shoot, the sphere contracted and vanished, as if dissolving. It went away in a form that I cannot explain. He has already had another experience, where he found the sphere inside the house. But he only had time to take one photo before the sphere shot to the right and passed through the closed window. Therefore, these beings have no problems passing through matter, someone said. But why didn't Juanito turn on the light? Because, why did he go back? Why can't you see when the sphere goes away? He didn't turn on the light because here, there's the door, but when he built the house, the door was over here. So he opened a second door, closed the first one, but left the switch over there. And in this area, there's a small recess where there's a table. Therefore, he would have had to climb over the sphere, in the dark, pass behind the table, go turn on the light and come back. But then he didn't know if the sphere would have reacted if it would have gone away. So, at that moment, you're not lucid. Then when he touches it, he says, "Damn, but I have the camera, the professional camera that Maussan gave me." So he slightly goes back, still filming. When he gets to the table where he had the camera, turns off the cell phone, takes the camera, shoots. But unfortunately, the night before, he had left the memory card in the computer, so he didn't shoot anything. But not by chance, because it's the extraterrestrials who decide what you must film, therefore a little piece at a time. Otherwise, they would have programmed him not to forget the card and everything would have happened. Maybe he would go down to drink water. They would wake him up, go drink water. He would go drink water, turn on the light, the sphere would appear, he would do everything. And instead, a little piece at a time, and anyway. Look what beautiful photo. The next day, he took 3 beautiful photographs of a flying saucer, you see, with some spheres nearby. Look how beautiful they are. The flying saucer is identical to the Amicizia discs and also to an American case from the 50s. They are the photos of Pazjak, a small American town, therefore, Juanito's experience. This is the 3rd photo you see now. There's the bottom of the disc. It's really exceptional. Then he filmed the sphere again. He met it outside, but all this material, we'll see it another time. I think I'll make a video in the next few days. I'll upload it on my YouTube channel, and then I'll show it in the next meeting I'll hold. Thank you. Therefore, the prophecy says the truth. Everything is happening. Power is stretching itself to try to hide the truth. This truth they can no longer hide. Now they make the military talk, but they say they are a threat. There was an event in Mexico the other day where Maussan, at the Mexican Parliament, at the lower chamber of deputies, presented the testimony of some ex-military, like Ryan Graves, Robert Salas, of other experts, and, in his genius, brought some bodies of ancient extraterrestrials that were found in Peru. Evil seized the opportunity, didn't talk about the testimonies that were given, and mocked him about the alien mummies, even Uri Geller. You remember Uri Geller made a cake in the shape of them. That is making fun of Maussan, but you are an idiot. Excuse me, eh? But what do you know? There is extraordinary scientific research. An international team that did an in-depth study. Those bodies are not human. They are bodies of entities not of this world. They are reptiloid bodies. There's even the body of a female with eggs inside that are with embryo. They are not mummies, in the sense they are desiccated bodies, because mummies are bodies treated in a certain way. They remove the internal organs, and so on and so forth. They are desiccated bodies because they were buried in an ancient cave that is full of diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth practically sterilizes the area. Therefore, the classic germs didn't develop, that develop in post-mortem, and those bodies simply lost all liquids, but they are intact. All genetic DNA analyses were done, etc. Well, in the newspapers, they wrote that they are made with bodies, pieces of human bodies, of children even. And the Americans, indeed, Graves complained, and made a post saying that it had been a great hoax because the American government and military, including Ryan Graves, had sworn before Congress that this presence is a threat. That is, the Pentagon can no longer hide it, but they say, let's manipulate them and make believe it's a threat. However, if the bodies exist, and they are thousands of centuries old, let's say centuries old, 1,000 years, if the bodies exist that are 1,000 years old, they are not a threat because we are not under extraterrestrial dictatorship. This broke the eggs in the basket of power, and they are massacring Mausan. Unfortunately, with a bunch of idiots here in Italy too, who think they are the alternative. Instead, they are buffoons, just the same. They lie, they are superficial and qualunquist, like the mainstream. So a very great disappointment. Programs have been made on YouTube channels that really make your arms fall off. I mean, really distasteful things. I even made a booklet about the discovery. The incredible mummies of Nazca, a discovery that could change history. And to the data that I put in this writing, many others have been added that I will present soon. They won't stop the truth. They will be overwhelmed by the truth and will pay the consequences. We have a quarter of an hour for questions. If there's someone who passes the microphone. We went a bit long, but the things to explain were really many. Bye-bye. I remind you, if you can leave us a contribution, we are grateful to you for the expenses. Thank you. What's wrong, Dennis? Is it not working? Huh? Yes, go ahead.
Do I start? Do I begin with the first one?
Who is it?
Me, here. Hello, Pier Giorgio.
Hello.
I'll ask you two very quick questions. I know I always break the rules, last year too. So, the first one, what is Stonehenge? And second thing, when talking about reincarnation, if a male being always reincarnates into a male being, or can it reincarnate into a female being too? Thank you.
Eternal love couple is a big scam. It doesn't exist. What exists is that two people in their specific evolutionary moment can feel an attraction, unite. But if the speed, and also the reasons for the choice, if they are earnest, but still the evolutionary speed in time determines incompatibility. So we leave each other in peace, love, and then each one continues their path. Because we as spirit are neither male nor female, we tend toward androgyny because God is male and female, is an androgynous being. So we incarnate according to our evolutionary necessity, sometimes as males, sometimes as females, because we must acquire within ourselves the perfect balance, which is symbolized by the Star of David. The Star of David is composed of a triangle with the vertex pointing upward, which is the symbol of the penis, and a triangle with the vertex pointing downward, which is the symbol of the vagina. Therefore, masculine and feminine in the divine man are in perfect balance. The six-pointed star is indeed the monogram of Christ. Therefore, the Christic being is androgynous. Fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensions are androgynous. We remain male and female only up to the fourth dimension, which is the human dimension. When you pass on to the fifth dimension, which is the first divine dimension of the superior triad, you become androgynous. There is no more couples love. It doesn't exist. There is experimentation, where in interaction we exchange experience and love, but roles change, as well as race. We are born red-skin, black, yellow, because we must acquire all the values of all races that are on Earth, because cosmic terrestrial man must possess all four main values of the four races: erotic creative, mental, sensitivity of the divine nature of creation, and the magical aspect of nature. The white, the yellow, the black, and the red. No, or else we'll have a discussion just you and me. Then the reincarnation matter. I answered everything, right? Yes, okay. Another one? No, or else we will start a conversation that never ends. Please. Microphone, where is it? Who is it? Let's do a man and a woman, male or female, like this, so they won't accuse us of not being inclusive.
Hello.
Turn on the microphone. Put the microphone close to your mouth.
Hello, I wanted...
The microphone close to your mouth there.
I'm not used to it, sorry. Years ago, where I live...
Yes, speak up, dear.
Yes, years ago where I live, about 25, 30 kilometers from here, they appeared...
You must speak up.
Crop circles suddenly appeared.
Yes, the crop circles. Is it in Porino?
In Desio.
Ah, in Desio. Okay, I remember.
Journalists talked about it very little, only local newspapers.
Journalists are prostitutes.
But what then?
So find me a virgin prostitute.
They tried to disguise, to say that different things one from another.
What's the question?
My question, the one that still now swirls in my head, is why some of these spikes, not all, but some, were down of a beautiful turquoise color.
They were?
Of a beautiful, I can't eat it, a beautiful turquoise color.
Well, they could be effects of energy.
We had our crop circles too.
We had?
We had our crop circle too.
Yes, but in Italy various ones appeared, but the substance remains that meaning. The phenomenon is not national, the phenomenon is for all humanity, like the sightings. We had a great case similar to that of Juanito Juan. Now it's not like that anymore, for various reasons. Now we have, by the way, it was here, Milan area.
May I? May I?
We had another case like that of Juanito Juan. Now he's not in Italy anymore, he's in Mexico. Yes, who is it? Where is it? Yes.
My question is this. Has any priest ever been interested in Bongiovanni's case? A bishop? A cardinal? The Pope?
What I know is that they also wanted to get rid of him. Because the sign of the stigmata and those messages outside the institution, meaning out of control, they can't stand it. Therefore, at the beginning, he had friendships in the Vatican. For example, Cardinal Silvio Audi. But I tell you, remind me of your name?
Renato.
Renato. I interviewed years ago, Monsignor Corrado Balducci. At a certain point I told him, Monsignor, you who live in the sacred chambers, how is the situation of the faith there? Answer. What do you mean, He said, optimistically, perhaps 30% believes. 30%? I said, are you kidding? No. It's already a high number. And all the others? Careerism, power, money, property, etc., etc., etc. So that institution that keeps secret the messages that instead Our Lady. But, according to you, is it logical that Our Lady appears from the heights of heaven, comes to earth to give a message that must remain secret? For me, she's a fool if she does so. Since the Holy Mother is anything but a fool, it's the Vatican that puts everything under wraps, because certain truths are scandalous. I said that the other day I was in Garabandal, which has never been recognized, because in the second message, Our Lady fiercely attacks the corruption of the Vatican. No way they'll make it official. Because they don't want to amend themselves, they are corrupt. So at the beginning, someone was interested. They even told him to take the clerical garb. Fortunately, it was a rainy day. He had an umbrella with him. So he showed them the handle. From that moment, they began to attack him. There was a good probability that someone also thought about eliminating him. I don't have proof, eh? But this person with the stigmata, uncontrollable, was very disturbing. Then, since they received sound beatings from above, in the end, they decided, they understood it was better to leave him alone. Yes, who has the microphone? It's not me who decides. We said, let's do a male and a female, please.
Hi, Pierre. In the crop circle with the various stars, there was a very large one, quite central.
That's Christ.
With the point, no? The one with the point facing downward.
But it's facing downward in the photo. But if you are from above, you are the one who decides which way to put it.
Yes, however, it's opposite to the Christic one.
No. I mean, the figure there is a composition. If then you go, I'll show it to you again.
Yes.
Actually, the big star you say with the point downward, in the center there's another one with the point upward. But it's just an artistic composition. Because otherwise, if we fixate on the hairs and don't see the big picture.
Perfect, thank you.
Look, theologically speaking, Satan is inside Christ.
That's what I wanted to know.
Because Satan is an instrument of God. Our Father, lead us not into temptation. Now they changed it, but the Father who leads into temptation. When he sees that our faith is weak and we can be corrupted, he acts as the examiner and doesn't send an angel, he sends his servant, Satan. This is in the parable of Job. Satan says, God, where do you come from? And Satan says, I was going around the world. Ah, yes, and what did you see on earth? Hey, I saw your servant Job, and God all happy. Ah, Job is faithful to me. Satan says he's faithful, easy, he's rich, he's well off, he has lots of wives. With all these gifts that you have given him, it's obvious he's faithful to you. But I'd like to see if you take them away, if he doesn't spit in your face. And God takes up the challenge and says, very well. Take everything away from him, but don't touch his health. I authorize you to tempt him. Take everything away from him, but don't make him sick and don't touch his life. So Satan, all happy, goes down, impoverishes him. Disaster. The wives against, this God. Leave him. And he, be quiet, foolish woman. If the Father wants this, his will be done. Satan returns to God and says, you were right. He is faithful to you. But why didn't you let me touch his health? Let me touch his health, and let's see if he doesn't spit in your face. And God says, all right, touch his health, but don't kill him. Then Satan returns and gives him a disease so ugly that he was full of pustules, that he was always inside a basket full of ashes, because these pustules were continuously oozing pus. Not content with this, Satan sends him 3 dearest, friends of his who tell him, look at the state you're in. What has become of you? But this God has abandoned you, deny him. And there Job has a moment of wavering. Then God, who loves Job, what does he do? He takes a young boy, personifies himself in him, goes to visit Job, and gives his friends hell. Job recovers and chases them away too. Therefore God commands over everything, otherwise he wouldn't be omnipotent. This is another great secret. Satan is the trainer. Of course, if he wins you, it's your problem. But he comes and tempts you where you are weak. He is like the disease he indicates, where you are weak. Treat that part of the body that is weaker than the others. And then, there is a book by a famous doctor. Every symptom is a message, because the body is the notebook. where we, spirit, write our weaknesses. Therefore, every disease has its message. If the tumor appears on your right breast rather than on your left breast, it indicates what type of sentimental suffering you have, if it is linked to children or if it is linked to the spouse. If the tumor comes to your pancreas, comes to your brain, comes to your rectum, comes to your stomach, it is a clear and precise indication of why that disease came to you. There is no chance. Chance does not exist, friends. Any manifestation cause-effect, because the law of cause and effect is absolutely impossible and insurmountable. The sooner we understand it, the better. Please question. Turn on.
Test. So, good evening, Mr. Caria. Well done, because you speak well. Unfortunately, you say several wrong things, and I noted down some.
Wow, go ahead.
Yes, because verba volant et scripta manent.
One, not all.
Just one? Oh, gosh, here's the list.
The most important one.
The most important, eh? Here there's two. Well, just one then. You said, it's not proven that God doesn't exist. This is an authentic, logical fallacy, because the proof of demonstration belongs to who affirms, not to who denies. If someone accuses me of murder, it's who accuses that must prove that I killed someone and not I, who must prove I haven't killed anyone.
Okay, firstly, we are educated people here, therefore the question posed in an inquisitorial and arrogant tone already tells me not to answer you, but since I am a polite person, I'll answer you. So, I said, maybe it was a lapsus, because I said, I have a seminar of 15 episodes where I demonstrate through science that God exists. Therefore, when I said, if I said it, I believe I said it, that the proof that God doesn't exist isn't there, but that's what people believe. I cannot speak of my own. I speak of what people generally know. Is this concept clear? That is, according to science, God doesn't exist. Philosophy exists, which is human reasoning on the hypothetical nature of the divine. Then, yes, you can have all the lists you want, but the matter is another, see? On this chair, there isn't your bottom, there's mine. So, to say what? That being the referee in front of the television screen is easy. Instead, if you are firm in your considerations about Caria's mistakes, all to be demonstrated, you should make the choice that Caria made. Sacrifice your life and spread your word to the world for humanity's salvation. I am not. I never said I was perfect, so I can make mistakes too. However, if you nitpick on subtleties, avoiding the enormous amount of data that I brought you, you are not of truth. You come from some other part that doesn't interest me. But you are free to do what you want. However, I cannot give you the time of my conference that cost me quite a lot of money. Make your own conference. But since I am a polite person, and I know that I can learn from my mistakes, if they are mistakes, write to my email, scrivi@piergiorgiocaria.it, and I will explain everything to you, because in my opinion, everything that you noted down are things that you haven't understood simply. I've been doing this job for 35 years. I can make mistakes. It has happened to me too. But you know, someone from the audience who doesn't have this career behind them, who stands up and with a presumptuous manner puts me under accusation, wait a moment, I also have two attributes. Wise Norm. Remind me your name? Roberto Wise Norm. Never challenge the expert in public because he will always know one more than you, if nothing else, for ability in his profession. However, I answered you about one. That is, I said, of course I know that God exists. I'm absolutely certain at scientific level, but I speak of human society. Please. However, Roberto, even the bristly contention is pleasant if it's a moment of growth for both, so thank you. Please, behave. The moment of debate is fine. It's always a moment of growth. Anyway, he made a contestation, Roberto. I answered him. It served everyone. It served me, it served him, it served all of us. Therefore, there must not be belligerence, or else we always fall into the devil's trap. Please, who is it? The last one.
Good evening, Pier Giorgio. I'm here.
Hey, no, we needed a woman, right? Be kind. Then there's this beautiful young woman here, come on. Let's let the young express themselves. They are the future. We old ones are finished now.
We are all the future.
Who is it? Where is it? Who said that?
Me.
Who said that?
Me.
You're right, well done, because we are eternal, you see? She paid attention. Come on, give the microphone.
Since I was born, I've been paying attention to the sky.
Yes. Yes, who's asking the question?
As you wish.
Her, this young lady here. Tommy, so this time there's no desktop? Can I close? Come on. There's a girl, come on. Let's let this young girl speak. Hey, I know, friends, there's no time, eh? What do we do?
Good evening. First, I wanted to thank...
How old are you?
18.
Wow.
Hey, I wanted to thank you.
What's your name?
Sophia Elena. And I wanted to thank you for your presence yesterday in Torre del Benaco, for the because I was there with my mother. And I wanted to ask you, I saw the Da Vinci Code movie.
Yes.
What do you think about the interpretation of the Last Supper painting, in which the disciple John is replaced with the figure of Mary Magdalene?
Young people make you, anything but giving them beer. Well done, Elena. So, there is a current that has, I believe, found followers also in the Templar movement, according to which that disciple is not John the Evangelist, but is the Magdalene with whom Jesus would have had children, from whom descends the lineage of the Merovingians, which would be the lineage born from Jesus' seed. Nonsense, it's not true. That figure there is John the Evangelist, but John the Evangelist is depicted with a feminine aspect, which then Leonardo will also bring back in the Mona Lisa, because it is the figure from which, with whom Christ leaves his mother. And it is the figure, let's say, maternal. John is the mystically maternal figure who must console humanity through the revelation of truth. Therefore, my spiritual father was John the Evangelist, the comforter promised by Christ in the Gospel of John, who had to reveal all those heavenly things that 2,000 years ago humanity could not understand, and that instead today, albeit in a small part, today we can understand it, and I am one of those who was chosen to explain it. Therefore, Leonardo, who was a great initiate. Indeed, if I must be sincere, in my opinion, Leonardo was John the Apostle. It's one of his incarnations. Because the apostles had principal incarnations, but they also had other incarnations, where they gave gifts to humanity. For example, Johann Sebastian Bach was the Baptist, who came to bring that innovation in the world of music because mutants, that is the angels of the fifth dimension, are great geniuses and are scientists also in the world of arts. Therefore, they come to give evolutionary pushes to humanity and incarnate as humans, but in reality, they are divine beings. Therefore, Leonardo was one of these. And in his works, there is a lot of mysticism, let's say, camouflaged, also by legend. Therefore, that figure is really John the Evangelist, but since Leonardo also writes in the way that you read it through the mirror, therefore Leonardo is always double. He always gives you a hidden message. Why was this necessary? Because Leonardo finds himself operating in the time of the Inquisition. And therefore, if at that time you said things straight out, you ended up under the Inquisition, and you met the fate of Giordano Bruno, or of Girolamo Savonarola, and of many others. Therefore, it was necessary to conceal these things. That would be understood centuries later. For example, another great initiate was Michelangelo Buonarroti, when in the famous image where there's God creating Adam, God's mantle has the shape of the human brain. Because man comes from God is in his image and likeness, and therefore there's a hidden message and all in golden section. And also man's disobedience is represented. Because while God's finger is active, that is proposing, volitional, Adam's finger is limp, like slow dick, so to speak. Sicilians understand me. Therefore, Michelangelo, who was another great initiate, in that painting transmits man's little will to go toward God, and instead God's great love, who wants to help his creature. In sacred art, there are really extraordinary messages, but if you don't know sacred science, you can't decipher them. Therefore, this is the aspect of the painting of, therefore Jesus didn't have children. The Magdalene was his woman, because Jesus is the Son of Man. But in him, when he is baptized, the solar being Christ enters. Christ is androgynous. When these beings come into the dual dimension, where there are the two sexes, they split. The male part goes into the male and the female part goes into a female, and they become a charismatic couple. But Jesus' mission did not foresee leaving children. And it's not true that he didn't die on the cross, that he went to Tibet. A lot of nonsense, because we find the truth in the Gospels, and in the Gospel, it says that Jesus expired, because as soon as Jesus died, Christ came out of the body, went to hell, because he had to bring to hell his proposal of redemption also. Therefore, he spoke with the infernal spirits and told them, "If you follow my law, I forgive your sins. I make you reincarnate. You pay the debt you have. But when I return, if you have remained faithful, I will make you enter the kingdom." Some accepted. That's why today there are repentant mafia members who convert. They talk and give everything, and fall in love with Christ, because they gathered that offer that Christ made them. I have a friend who is a former assassin. He killed dozens of people. I love him with all my soul, because that one has guts. He was a billionaire. He had great power. I'm talking about Gaspare Mutolo. He's a very dear friend of mine, Gaspare. He gave everything. Today, he loves Christ, and he has truly repented of what he did. Therefore, Christ saves them and maybe condemns us, because we don't change. Therefore, we must be careful. The first time, I had already met other people, but the first time I hugged Gaspare, That energy he still carried a bit with him, is not beautiful. But over time, today he's a very sweet person even. He challenged Cosa Nostra, showing who he is. His face, he went to Giletti. Really a great life lesson. Think about the Father's mercy. This man truly killed with his own hands many people. But Christ says, repent. If you repent, I forgive your sins, but then you must remain faithful. Once Giorgio was taken and found himself inside a spacecraft with the Lord. He was minding his own business. Suddenly, boom, he finds himself inside this place, like an airplane. Alone. There were empty seats, he says, but where the hell am I? And at the end of this great corridor, he sees that there was something. So he approaches, and there was a kind of couch, and lying down, sitting a bit comfortable, there was the Lord. And Giorgio, as soon as he saw him, Lord, Lord, my sins. And the Lord told him, Giorgio, with a friendly, benevolent smile, he told him, Giorgio, sins are not important, because sins can be forgiven. Faithfulness is important. Obviously, we're talking about human sins, certainly not great crimes. But sins, the Lord, we all have sins, some more, some less, because we're not perfect. Even if He tells us be perfect, like your Father who is in heaven, yes, we're working on it. But the Lord says, be faithful, work for my vineyard, then sins. I close one eye, even the other. Maybe I turn the other way, but stay with me. Because I have the power to judge. Therefore, I can condone the error and help you or condemn you. But if you are the ones to abandon me, I can't do anything anymore, because I must respect your choice. Thank you, friends.